Alrighty, got a J-League match here between, oh goodness, I don't know how to pronounce these, MiesvanderRoll and otrucol717. Joining me are jonts and kHz. So these two players are, let me check the standings. Let's see where they stand.
Okay, spec chat's off.
They are first and second in the standings currently, right?
Ooh, so this is a match with potential implications for who makes it up to I-League. Yeah, so otrucol's sitting at a nice 10-2 win-loss record, and MiesvanderRoll is at 8-4 in their division.
Okay, so this is competitive.
This match probably matters for who promotes.
Always nice when there's some stakes.
Yes.
Very exciting. Okay, so
Let's look at the board.
Our only trashing seems to be cemetery.
Mine, or not mine, mint.
Sorry.
Mint, totally
Did you say mine?
same thing. I said mine. Mine is a trasher, and it's spelled somewhat similarly.
So, Armory Cemetery trashes pretty fast, but Armory is like the worst workshop variant to trash with. Because it's top cemetery, and you don't want to do that.
Just the worst version of Chapel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It still seems good to me. I think I'd be willing to open Armory here for the cemetery trashing.
Yeah, I guess you could open mint on the right 5 too. Like if you open mint with the
Lucky coin not in hand.
yeah.
Oh, I think I'd be willing to mint either way and just stick with the 1 silver.
I guess the way the monkey makes it a little easier because mint can just be a single coin, and that helps you get out of that. Because the normal problem with opening mint is you trash 5 hoppers and then you don't have any economy anymore. It's just all gone.
Yeah, agreed. The average case scenario for mint on 5-2 is pretty darn bad. You need some way to add economy like ASAP. But even if you trash the lucky coin in the 5-2 turn, you'll have gotten 1 silver off of it first, and then you could buy a Hamlet, and then the Hamlet and or mint could be played as way of the monkey. So you're not going to be in the sad spot of hitting 2, I don't think, on subsequent turns.
Alright, so Otrucol takes a Marauder.
Okay.
So Marauders, I mean, if there wasn't like trashing on this board, like good trashing, Marauder is probably pretty good, but I think the Armory Cemetery makes me think Marauder is not quite strong enough.
Yeah, I think most of the time Marauder is pretty weak. Its best case scenario is with no trashing, which is not the case here. It's slow enough and weak enough that if there's a decent trasher, that usually overcomes Marauder's effect, I would say.
I find most of the time you want to skip Marauder. It's a pretty low impact card. You need a board with no trashing and no other attacks.
I find that Marauder is usually openable on like no or very weak trash boards, but otherwise it's skippable.
Yeah.
Until maybe later in the game. The real downside of Marauder is like you give your opponent a junk card, but you kind of give yourself a junk card too, because the spoils gets in the way of doing things. And Marauder doesn't do anything else the turn you play it, so it doesn't help you like accelerate your deck early.
Yeah, the way I like to think of it is, like, Marauder looks like a gold, because it's giving you a spoils, which is worth 3. But rather than, like, say gold, where you draw the gold, you get 3. With Marauder, you first have to draw the Marauder, play the Marauder, then draw the spoils, just to get 3 once. So you're getting 3 coins across, like, 2 cards, which is, like, at best, like, halfway between a copper and a silver. And realistically worse than that, because you're getting all of the money in the second half, to the later down the road scenario, which is not where you want it.
Yeah, it's actually pretty bad. Like, the only way Marauder is like gold is if you're overdrawing your deck and you can play Marauder and then play the spoils like every turn.
Yeah.
Then you get that 3 coins every single turn, but otherwise it's not like gold at all.
Yeah. So what are we building to here? I would think livery for the main draw. I mean, you could play with Royal Blacksmith as well, and that might be more desirable if you minted all your coppers early or cemeteried them.
I mean, yeah, I think mint definitely looks pretty good here because you mint crowns. I just want a bunch of crowns. Crown livery makes a lot of sense on draw. I mean, you can probably play with both livery and Royal Blacksmith here.
Yep. If I could trash my coppers early, I wouldn't be averse to taking an early Royal Blacksmith, because I think livery's worst period is like right when you first are trying to pick it up. Early on, it's not doing too much for you. It becomes amazing draw once you have a deck together that's gaining a bunch of cards every turn, but it's kind of weak early on. And so maybe if you started off with 1 RBS to kick off your deck, and then move towards liveries for draw later on.
Now, the thing to note is there are currently 0 cards in the trash. So
that is worth noting.
That doesn't seem great.
Yes, trashing is good. Trashing is very good. The fewer bad cards you have in your deck, the more often you see your good cards. It is very important to trash your cards.
This is the one lesson I think that everyone needs to learn sooner rather than later is trashing is good. Just trash. It's trash cards.
Yes.
Copper's bad, estate's bad. Every time you draw a copper on a state, you aren't drawing a better card.
I mean, like, trashing is just inevitable. Either you do the trashing, or you are playing trashily, in which case it's just the worst of the two scenarios. Now, I guess I expect this to end up being just a big money deck the way it's looking. I haven't seen them trash early. They're just going for payload cards, taking a lot of silvers off a lucky coin. It seems clearly suboptimal to me here on account of how strong the draw and actions and everything else is in this kingdom. But the one thing that I guess I would say big money has going for it in this kingdom is at the very least you've got Fool and by extension Lucky Coin. And normally Lucky Coin I think pushes you in a big money-ish direction, at least a bit, because you get like a bunch of free silvers.
Yeah. So Lucky Coin, just getting free silvers every shuffle. Anything that gains treasures is usually pretty good for money decks.
Yeah, I'd say Fool is probably in like the top 10 or 15 like things that makes you think about going for big money in a kingdom just because of Lucky Coin. I still wouldn't do it here, but it's like it's one of the most money-ish cards. Not Fool itself so much as the Lucky Coin.
What I've come to realize is that even though Lucky Coin does push money, it also just makes engines faster. It just makes games faster.
Yeah,
it's not necessarily a bad engine card.
It's bad for some engines. The type where you don't want silvers and have to avoid playing your Lucky Coin, then it can be a bit of a hindrance.
When you need to trash it early, it can be annoying, but it can also just make engines faster.
Yeah, one of those things it does is it lets you open things you might not normally open, because often you're looking to add some payloads so you can hit like 5 coins for your next shuffle, and so if you're adding a free silver, maybe you can do something else other than buy silver.
Yeah. So
it also makes taking like 2 terminals safer because you have an extra card in there.
Now, Halo Andy saying Gamble seems not super useful here. I would say, yeah, this is on kind of the low end of strength for Gamble. Gamble, I think, tends to have 3 functions. Scenario 1, the most fun scenario, but the hardest one, is building a deck that's just like primarily centered around Gamble, where you just put a bunch of cards worth gambling into your deck and then just gamble all the way through your deck every single turn. That requires your deck to have a lot of cards that give you lots of money and very few cards that don't give you money, because you have to be making a net positive return on each card to be able to make it through your deck. So like lots of golds or
money density.
Yeah. That's hard to do, but some kingdoms allow it. I don't think this one does. Main thing that would help that is like gold gainers that put tons of gold in your deck. Option 2 is drawing through to the end of your deck and then being able to gamble what you just bought and play it the same turn. So, for example, you could buy a livery and gamble a livery, and then later buys you made in the same turn to give you horses immediately. I think that's also a little bit unlikely here because you're going to have this problem potentially of having discarded bad cards with Hamlet, and your discard will be full of bad cards that you don't want to gamble into. So Hamlet also makes gamble a little bit less desirable for that function. That being said, even with those two, Gamble's best uses off the table, it also has this third use of just like situationally on the right turns, especially early on, just accelerating your deck a little bit, where like, oh no, I didn't find my armory yet in this shuffle, let me gamble a few times to get to it, and just make your deck run a little bit faster. And that could still come up here.
I love this mint play here. Getting a ghost, using a ruin, and then to trash the haunted mirror, and then discarding a ruin. That's great.
2 silvers trashed there. So another way that otrucol could have taken a ghost there was to just play 2 silvers, buy cemetery, and trash like copper haunted mirror, and then you can discard it that way.
Yeah.
That way you get your ghost without trashing 2 silvers.
Yeah, I'm not sure why they did that. It's a very funny looking play.
Yeah, it's unclear. It seems like the type of deck they're building probably wants a bunch of silvers. If you're playing big money here, then obviously silvers are your friend. If you're trying to build an engine, then yeah, trash the silver is totally fine. But it doesn't seem like that's the direction they're trying to go in.
Marauder generally suggests that you want to pursue something more money-ish.
Yes. Yeah, like, the Marauder's doing nothing to kickstart your deck as far as engine building goes. It's just a stop card that's kind of getting in the way. And so...
If I was building an engine here, I would probably eventually get a Marauder if my opponent was playing money, because those ruins probably hurt a little bit at least, but I wouldn't do it until I was, like, drawing my deck.
Honestly, the best argument I would give for getting a Marauder at some point in this game is eventually you're going to have a bunch of liveries in play, and you're going to have armories in your deck, and you're just going to want to cost something, or you want to gain something that costs 4, just to get horses off. And then when your options are Armory, Marauder, or Cemetery, Marauder might win that competition a few of the times, and you take the Marauder for the horses that come with it.
Yeah. I mean, it's not a good look when I'm looking at the card and thinking, vanilla card for 2 VP might be better.
Yeah. So we're not going to see what I think it looks like the optimal deck, but just to briefly describe it. If you get thin early with armories, the goal is going to be to get a few liveries in play, and then if you gain a bunch of cards per turn, like gain some crowns, gain some armories, gain whatever, then you start getting a ton of horses. And like it starts off slow, but livery escalates to like gaining like 10, 20 horses per turn, and then you're trivially drawing your deck. And that's the point I try to be getting to. And then once you've got that down, you can probably score a whole heck of a lot of points.
Yeah, so I think one of the key cards here to make that work is Hamlet, because it's the only plus buy on the board.
Ruin Market is plus buy.
Okay.
As
There's
is
another one.
Way of the Monkey.
Here it is, Way of the Monkey.
Monkey. Okay, Monkey makes it so Hamlet isn't as important. That's true.
I mean, Hamlet still seems
if you're
pretty
playing,
good.
I mean, Hamlet gives you some actions, which is fine. Crown also gives you actions, but probably you need some Hamilton here for sure.
Yeah, I think the two strongest cards in this kingdom are Livery and Crown, but you obviously want to play with more than just those two.
I mean, I think Cemetery looks pretty strong on this board too.
That's fair. Cemetery is also pretty important for that deck.
Yeah. And Armory is way better than usual. This is like one of the best cases for Armory in general, is probably Cemetery.
Yeah, Cemetery
It's not a
really
good
likes
card.
to be in kingdoms with cards that cost 4 or less and function as workshops. So Ironworks, Workshop, Armory, Groom, where you can gain the Cemetery with the Armory and then just trash like... Oh, look! Speak of the devil. MiesvanderRoll.
Yeah, let's go.
Yeah, that's a good turn there.
Yeah. A bit late. This is like taking a late Chapel. Like with Chapel, for example, you always want to open Chapel. You don't wait till turn 3 or turn 5 to get your Chapel. You do it turn 1 or turn 2. And part of that is because the earlier you trash, the better. Trashing early has benefits for the rest of the game. But another reason to do that is because if you put it in your deck at the very beginning of the game, your deck is full of junk. So you're likely to line up that Chapel with 4 junk cards. Whereas later on, your Chapel's going to be in a hand with some good cards and you're trash like 1 or 2 per turn, which is slower. Kind of similar principle here with Cemetery is you want that Armory to be in your turn 3 or turn 4 hand, where it's likely to be next to 4 junk cards and you can trash them more. They got 3 cards trash, which is not bad.
What do we think about Fool here?
Go ahead.
What do we think about Fool here? They both have Fool.
I would describe Fool as being okay in big money decks. You're likely to have junk sitting around in your deck that you are for your discard. You're not likely to draw back to it, so the discarding it doesn't hurt you. And the boons are more likely to help a money deck. Something like top deck a random gold that's in your discard, or you gain a silver, are okay. I wouldn't get Fool here because I would want to be building the engine with the liveries and the crowns and stuff, and Fool isn't good in that deck. For the decks they're playing, I think Fool is fine.
Fool's still okay, but money. I mean, because you don't often need 5 cards to hit province. Because you're going to have like estates, you're going to have provinces or other junk card in your or like extra coppers. So you're usually not hurting your turn to just discard a random card.
Yeah. That makes sense. What are we buying for 4? Another Marauder.
2 Marauders seems like a bad idea most of the time.
Yeah.
I mean, 1 Marauder also seems like a bad idea most of the time, but 2 is overkill.
Yeah.
All right, what's the last boon?
Ooh, what is the last boon?
Is it forest?
I have no idea.
It's forest. Look at me tracking boons. Nice. Tracking boons is a thing that took me a long time to figure out how to do effectively.
How do you do it effectively?
But I'm pretty good at it now. What's that?
How do you do it effectively?
Mostly it's just memorization, and I only track.
You just track all the boons. Like, what do you mean?
I don't track all of them. I only track the important ones usually. Like I track because there's a few boons that are kind of nothing, and there's a few boons that are really strong often. Like Earth is really strong, Forest is really strong. So I'll just track to see if those ones have been picked or not.
Oh, this is one of those places where I think the log is a little bit confusing. Because it might look like you were undoing a different thing than you were. Because it's not clear, I think, from the opponent's perspective that the thing you're undoing is like you chose to discard and then want to undo that choice. They might think you're undoing the previous play.
Yeah.
Yeah, there are a few parts of the log that's not super great. Ooh, trashing. Nice.
Flames Gift, that's one I definitely like. I feel like Flame and Swamp are 2 of the stronger ones.
Yeah.
Swamp's great with these decks, yeah. A lot of cards to draw. So Swamp functions like a lab most of the time. Flame, we're trashing Copper over Ruined Library. Maybe that's fine, I'm not sure.
Given this hand, it seems like interesting choice to crown. I guess it's gonna work out fine though.
I mean, I'll crown the spoils here, right?
And just buy province already.
I mean, it's a money deck. It's a huge deck. I think you just buy provinces when you hit 8 at this point of the game.
Yeah, that seems fine.
But crowning spoils seems pretty good. Ooh, big turn.
Okay, so we're hitting 10 money. Let's see what we do. I'm gonna predict we gamble once and then buy a province.
It's not how you play Crown.
Oh, they made a mistake, I think, and didn't realize it. I think what happened is they played the crown at the end of their action phase. Attempting to.
Yeah, I was wondering.
Oh no.
Yeah, so there's actually an autoplay feature. It's not showing up as a spectator, but if you're a player and you right-click crown, there's an option where if crown is the last action card remaining in your hand, it'll automatically end your action phase and go straight to buy, so you don't make the mistake that just happened. But what happened is they were still in their action phase. Technically, they hadn't ended their action phase because there was still an action in their hand, and so they played the crown, which then didn't have any actions to double. What you'd have to do if you don't have the little autoplay option on is manually end your action phase, so you're in the buy phase now, and then play crown. Because once it's the buy phase, you get to double the treasure.
Yeah, I've had that autoplay on for so long I forgot about making that mistake, but it's definitely something that used to happen to me before the autoplay. And I guess I'm always afraid of the situation coming up where you have plus card on crown and you draw 5 crowns and it skips right to your buy phase.
Yep.
You can always turn it off mid-game if that's a concern.
Yeah, that's why I have it on.
Wait, now they had more than 10 money in that hand, right?
Yeah, they also didn't play a spoils.
Yeah, so if they crowned a spoils, played another spoils, played the silver, and then the +1 from forest gift, that would be 12 money? So they could have spent a coffer and done province duchy or province livery or something like that, maybe.
Yeah, it's an unfortunate bit of underplaying.
I'm not sure how good the crowns are in these decks.
Yeah, I think the crown doesn't look amazing to me. Obviously, I think crown's a really strong card for the engine because it's a really good village. It's basically throne room. But they're not building the engine. So you don't have a lot of high-value action cards that you want to crown. As
So
far as
using
money
it
goes,
mostly is
just livery
fancy money.
or baker would, I think, be a stronger money card.
Yeah, I could see getting like a couple bakers, a couple liveries, and then provincing.
Yeah.
The livery is great because it makes 3 coins, which is a lot, and baker is great because it makes coffer. And coffers are really good for smoothing out your province buys. So, like, a lot of times the money will draw 7 one turn and like 10 the next turn or something. But, if you can transfer some of the coins from your bigger hands to your smaller ones, it smooths that out and makes it a lot better.
Otrucol is just noticing their mistake.
You have to, yeah.
And good sportsmanship by the opponent.
Yeah,
I think it's a reasonable thing to offer.
hopefully.
Like, this is the thing I think you would not like accidentally do in a real game. This is just like them not understanding the online interface. Oh, are they gonna undo this one step at a time? No. Okay. Second.
It's only 3 steps.
I think the other slash undo so you can go back further. There you go. You figured it out. All right.
There.
Success.
Oh, they're only going back to the beginning of this turn. I thought they noticed the earlier turn. I'm gonna go back that far.
Oh, that's probably asking a bit too much.
Well, they didn't even ask that. Their opponent was offering. I thought they were offering. I misinterpreted that as them like, yeah, go back and undo the first time you made the mistake.
No, I think they were offering this turn. Going back that far would have been a bit much.
Especially, I don't see people offering bigger undos at the lower level.
Oh yeah, I mean, there's definitely some players who are willing to grant undos pretty freely at lower levels, but by and large, I would say newer players tend to be much stingier about undoing. So it was nice that MiesvanderRoll was willing to offer the undo here.
Yeah, and it's a clearly good faith thing, right? Like, it's not a mistake where you could possibly be trying to do anything malicious. It's just like, I was trying to use crown and it didn't do anything.
Yeah. The real malicious thing to do would be to make your opponent discard 2 cards. Thank you, Aglet.
Okay, so we play the mint here with the Marauder.
Minting a gold seems better than Marauder for sure. I'm surprised they haven't hit provinces yet.
I think I prefer the mint as well, but you got to think like both of them are putting a gold into your deck for the next shuffle, and then how many more shuffles of this deck do you think are going to occur?
Probably a bunch. There are 8 provinces left.
Considering there's 8 provinces, I think we have time still.
Yeah. I think it's still mint here, but like one more shuffle through, and I think that choice starts to get less clear, where the gold doesn't have enough time to pay off more than a spoils would.
Yeah, I'm surprised we went with Baker. I think Baker would be pretty good in these decks.
Yeah,
Baker's a great money card.
Yeah, Baker's nice for money because it helps you smooth out those turns so that those $7 hands can become $8 hands. And
those $9 hands do something useful with the extra money.
Yeah.
I like how Otrucol still has this coffer from the very beginning of the game.
Yeah. But just to put in perspective the point I was making, like if you look at Otrucol's deck, they got 30 cards right now and basically no draw. So it's going to take them like 5 to 6 turns to get through this shuffle. And then the first time that gold would be better than a spoils is if you went through this shuffle and then into the next shuffle, where you get to play the gold a second time. And that's 10 turns down the road, maybe.
Arbius
It's not a universally bad card, but it's bad in these decks that still have copper and also don't really have Is RBS okay in these decks? I mean, if they're playing with a bunch of crowns and hamlets, they have the actions for it.
I'm going to say it's not very good.
Okay, but I don't think it's worth like 7 death.
The problem with Royal Blacksmith is like you can't get it until you've thinned a bunch of your coppers, where it starts to do not a lot for you. And if you get it early, it's not drawing you too much because it's discarding a lot of your payload. If you get it late, well, then the 8 det's going to hurt a lot. I don't think it's a terrible card. It's not like a horrible misplay or anything, but it's not a card I would expect it to get. Even in engines, Royal Blacksmith can be a little bit situational for similar reasons, which is you often haven't thinned all of your coppers immediately, so you can't add it until late in the game. Here, I thought that there was a place for it in the engine because you can thin a bunch of coppers really fast with the Armory Cemetery interaction, but obviously they didn't do that.
Yeah, I'm still surprised they haven't provinced yet. It feels like I want a province.
Which is ironic because I will say that when I comment in these J-League matches, 90% of the time I'm screaming at them, please for the love of God, don't buy province, stop buying provinces, and they do it way too early. This is kind of an exception to the rule in that they're taking the provinces very early, and they're not taking the provinces very early, and it seems like they ought to.
They're playing money decks, but they're not buying provinces.
Yeah. So in general,
in a money-heavy deck.
Oh, go ahead.
So in a money-heavy deck, generally, like you're just looking to buy a single province, right? So you're looking to add some treasures, maybe add a little bit of draw or some other support cards. But like the best your turns really conceivably do is buy a province, right? So usually with money decks, you're looking to province pretty early, and then you don't expect to province every single turn, but you province pretty early. Maybe you miss a turn or two, but like that's really the best your decks can do.
Yeah, in this particular case, I think that it works out pretty well. Also, because you've got stuff that's going to keep your deck getting a little bit better over time, even while you're provincing. Like your Lucky Coin is going to be giving you silvers. You've got an Armory in there that's going to give you stuff and so forth. You might pick up some extra cards off of Lost in the Woods from Fool. Now, most of the time, the reason province is bad is because you should be building more. And buying province early is a symptom of not wanting to build enough. And that's honestly, like, still true here. Like, the optimal deck here shouldn't be buying provinces early because you should be building a lot. But given that they're not building a big deck, it would make sense to province early.
Oh, that's a sad draw for that Royal Blacksmith.
Yeah, so this is an example of the woes of Royal Blacksmith. I've just got a general sense that otrucol's deck is better, just based on the last few hands I've seen. I'm not sure if that's right, but that's what I'm getting out of this.
It is hard to say. I'm pretty sure otrucol has more gold, which is usually fine for a money deck.
So we got 12 money here. I think you'd mint the gold and buy definitely province. And
See, this is the point in the game where I might consider taking like my first Marauder.
Oh, that was... I don't think I would have discarded a silver for a boon there.
I don't know, it seems okay given how much money you have.
But I mean, you could have spent that money.
I mean, on what?
A livery, a duchy, a crown, a baker.
But you only have... Well, that costs your coffer, though, right?
Yeah. Or alternatively, you could have played the mine as a monkey, but I would have spent the coffer.
That's true. At this point, I'm not sure I want to spend the coffer. Like, your deck is like 1,000 cards, and I'd rather just use the coffer to buy province, I think.
This looks like a good turn for Cemetery. Actually,
It'd be a great Cemetery.
Yeah, I still like Cemetery here. I'm actually not sure I would trash the other Cemetery with your Cemetery. We might be at the point in the game where I'd be willing to hold on to that for the points. But I'd love to trash.
I mean, play the horse here and see what you draw.
Yeah.
Who has the Armory?
Otrucol.
Yeah. No. Doesn't
Am I wrong?
Mies have it already?
I said that very confidently.
I think you're wrong.
I better not be wrong.
I'm pretty sure you're wrong.
Damn it. I am wrong. I was so sure of that.
Okay, they are picking up the cemetery, though.
Why didn't you spend your money?
Oh, they have no buys.
Wait,
okay.
why didn't you spend your
They
money?
do have a buy.
But they didn't spend their money.
Are they just passing
They're
everyone
cool.
free province?
Yeah.
For a cemetery, yes.
I think maybe they're confused about the order. You have to put all of your money in play before buying anything. Okay, yeah, they're undoing.
Okay, there we go.
This is admittedly something a little bit confusing about the way that the phases of the Dominion are named, because it's like action, buy, cleanup, A, B, C's. Realistically, the buy phase has like two different subcomponents. Like step one of the buy phase is you put the treasures and stuff into play, and then step two is you buy things, and you can't actually mix and match those. So you can't like play some treasures, buy one thing, play a few more treasures, buy
You
another
need to
thing.
undo further.
You gotta play all the treasures and then buy all the things with the money.
Yes.
And that's usually not like
this is
a
also-
meaningful difference, but occasionally that can be significant.
It's also relevant for things like gamble, right? Like, because once you start gambling, you can't put more treasure in play. So, like, if you play gamble and draws treasures, you can't play them.
Yeah, Gamble's actually a great example of where this matters. Is if I gambled and hit a royal blacksmith and drew 5 golds, well, I'm shit out of luck, because once I start buying things, I can't go back and play those golds that I drew, because that only happens in part 1 of the buy phase.
Yeah. Well, you can play the treasures that you draw, that you play with gamble. But, I mean, if you play a draw card and draw treasures, those treasures cannot get played. Unless you have a black market.
And gamble it.
And you gamble it. Or toil
Get into
it. Or
edge
something.
cases to our edge cases.
Or gamble a throne room
No!
to play the black
No!
market in your hand.
Mies, you're doing it
No,
wrong.
not again.
You have to play the treasures before you buy things.
Am I wrong to say they just undid and then did the same thing again?
Yes.
They're
Twice now.
Third time's
That
the
was the
charm.
third time they did exactly the same thing.
gonna figure it
You
out.
have to.
Here we go.
You have to
Okay.
play.
Okay.
all the treasures.
Oh,
Okay,
man.
We'll get there. We'll get there.
Here's my current hypothesis. They have the auto buy option on and just aren't quite sure how it works yet.
Yeah, I think they probably just started using it.
Yeah, so for context, there's this option that I find incredibly convenient and would encourage people to use called the auto buy feature, which allows you to, instead of manually like putting your treasures into play and then clicking on a card, if you just click on a card, it'll put the treasures in play for you to buy that card. The problem is, it only really works when you're only buying one thing on a turn. Like, it's helpful in the early turns where you're just buying one thing, because it doesn't know that you're going to buy more things after that, so it just puts enough treasures in play to buy the one thing you clicked on. So if I had like 20 money in my hand and clicked on Marauder, it's only going to put 4 money in play and buy Marauder for me. So once you get into the later stages of the game where you're buying multiple things, you can't rely on auto buy. You still have to put all your treasures in play yourself, so you have all the money available. There we go. We figured it out eventually.
Let's go.
I would probably take province here as optical. Let's spend this copper finally.
I agree with that.
Trash estate or no?
I still think yes. We're about to trigger a shuffle.
That's true.
I agree.
Yeah, it's actually like 30, 40 cards. It's 30 cards.
This is the most delayed greening I've seen from a money deck in probably ever.
I don't know about ever.
I'm not used to seeing money decks wait this long to start greening.
I just played some poor fellow on ladder. I think it was a day or two ago, where I just embargoed province 3 times while they were playing money. So they just kept buying golds and never green. They had like 10 golds in their deck. And it gave me plenty of time to build.
Embargo's great against money players.
Yeah.
Just embargo the provinces, and then they can't do anything.
Yeah.
That was one of those crazy moves when I first started playing. I was like, wait, why would you embargo provinces? We both have to buy those.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I can deal with curses better than you can, so... There you
Yeah,
go.
but also, you're going to wait to buy provinces.
Yeah.
I'm going to try to shove them into my deck early, which means the curses are going to be huge.
Yeah, I feel like province is one of the best targets for embargo versus anyone playing money.
Oh yeah, embargo does subtly push engines to be more powerful.
So you can embargo the golds too. That might accidentally encourage them to do the right thing and not buy the golds.
It's interesting. I did used to think of embargo as basically being a dud.
Sorry, look.
Not triggering?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a great play actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's something you don't usually see in J League, but they had a bunch of good cards that were in their hand, and they were on the cusp of triggering a shuffle. So if they played that Hamlet, they would have caused a new shuffle to trigger with that crown and the gold not in it. And so not playing the Hamlet means this crown and the gold are not back in that shuffle. I think that was a good play.
Yeah. As Mies here, I think you just play the Fool.
Yes.
Well, all right. I guess hits 5 still.
Cemetery and trash all the actions except for horse. I'm entirely serious about that.
Yeah, you can definitely trash those. Another crown seems a bit late. I think we're too late in the game for this.
Yeah, with 3 provinces left, I think it's scoring time.
Do not take this spoon.
Definitely not. Ooh, that's a nice draw.
That's quite nice.
Wow.
Finding 3 goals there is fantastic.
Let's see what Ghost hits. Okay.
All right. So Otrucol has another province in hand here. So Otrucol's probably winning this game at this point.
Yeah,
it's looking good.
Have y'all seen that little bar that the Japanese commentators have on the left-hand side where it shows you the expected win-loss rate of the players at this point?
No, what is this?
Yeah, wait, what?
Go check the video. I forget who posted it. I think Udai or someone. It was Chashu's stream, but apparently it's not actually like anything meaningful or statistical, but it looks like it is. It's like this bar that shows expected likelihood of winning that's just entirely based on the commentator's subjective preference of where to put it. So you're like, this player is 95%.
All right, we can play this game.
Yeah.
I'm putting Otrucol at like 90% to win.
That's too low.
Okay, I'm putting Otrucol at 100% to win right now.
That's
sure. That's too high.
There's a chance they don't buy province here. You never know.
Okay, fine. 99%.
I'll accept 99%.
The problem with 100 is that that's really certain.
The thing you're missing is Way of the Monkey. So even if you just drew provinces here, you could discard whatever you drew with Hamlet and then play Livery and then Monkey the Marauder. And then
or you can just Hamlet. You can use Ghost. They have a Ghost Hamlet, so that's also just 2 monkeys.
Yeah. Okay, so Otrucol takes the first game.
Well, let's not be presumptuous here. It's only 99% certain. I'm gonna bump it up to 99.8 because they've now monkeyed the Hamlet, which makes me think they see.
Okay, I'm putting it at 100%. There we go. Got there. All right. Well done for Otrucol. Otrucol's in first, right, in the division?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. With looks like a 2-game lead over Mies.
Yeah, Otrucol has 10-2 versus Mies's 8-4.
Excuse me.
All right, this one looks fun.
Ooh, there's
so almost all the good things cost 5. We don't have any plus buy.
There's a lot of 5s.
Well, there's plus buy. There's forest gift off of idle, but we don't really have plus buy.
We don't count that.
Yeah. We do have good gainers. Replace and Butcher are obviously good at gaining things. And you got good draw and actions. You got Bazaar for actions, Werewolf, Hunting Grounds, Apprentice for draw. So you can definitely build pretty big here. So hitting 5 looks really important to me. To that end, I would think Silver Knight Watchman looks pretty automatic. Silver Knight Watchman guarantees you hit 5 with 100% certainty, where you buy the silver turn 3, then you... Oh, sorry, that's not right. You buy the silver turn 1, you buy the Knight Watchman turn 2, and then you're looking at 5 of your 6 cards, you discard an estate, and then you have 5 cards left on top, which would be like a silver and 3 coppers, and then you're both A, 100% likely to hit 5, and B, as long as you only discarded 1 card and not more, you had a nice 5-card hand and no shuffle, so the 5-cost card goes directly back into your shuffle, and you could see it as early as turn 4. You don't want to get greedy and discard like 2 estates, even if you see them, because that would trigger a shuffle on turn 3, and then your $5 buy would not go back into the shuffle.
Yeah, so Silver Knight Watchman is a great open when you want to hit 5 immediately, and there's not like anything else really good at the 3 to 4 level.
Yeah, it's not like Night Watchman's a good card for your deck long term, so it's a sacrifice you're making. But getting a 5 in your deck here looks really important.
To answer Halo's question, it depends on how we frame this. So one thing to note is it does net gain cards with Hunting Grounds, because Hunting Grounds will gain you a duchy or estates or something, so you couldn't do it with Hunting Grounds. But also you can think of it a gainer because you're trashing like estates and coppers, which are basically junk cards, and so it turns your junk into stuff, so it's kind of like a gainer in that way.
Yeah, I totally like the idea of gaining Hunting Grounds and then trashing the Hunting Grounds for other things, and then gaining a duchy and then trashing the duchy for other things.
I mean, you can replace Hunting Grounds into Province Duchy, right? And then replace, or like butcher the Duchy back into a Hunting Grounds or something, right? And just repeat that.
That's like 10 points on its own. 6 from Province, 3 from Duchy, 1 from cursing your opponent.
It's like a do-it-yourself version of Displace.
Pretty much. Anyway, like I would play with a lot of the cards on this board, right? So both Butcher and Replace are reasonable picks. Bazaar is your village, so you want those. Apprentice is... it's okay. I mean, you gotta get rid of Copper somehow, I guess.
Yeah, I could see Apprentice coming up. I could see every card in this kingdom, I think, coming up at some point.
I think so too, yeah. Except maybe Idle.
Idle's definitely the one on the chopping block for me. Partly
what are you doing with Passage?
And everything else could cost 5.
5/2 for me is, I think, Replace.
Bazaar is definitely wrong. I'm 1000% sure Bazaar is wrong.
Yeah. So the nice thing about Replace on the 5/2, the reason I like Replace over Butcher on the 5/2 is because I can top deck like a Passage or a Dungeon or something on turn 3, and that would be really good.
I was thinking Butcher. Both of them are good. Obviously, if you see him turn 4, the top deck is less important. But if you butcher an estate into a 3, that can be nice because the next time you butcher an estate, you can get a 5 off of it. Alternatively, you can butcher a copper into a 3 with that extra copper.
So yeah, replaces or Butcher is better at trashing like the estates and coppers into things you want, but Replace is better for like a little bit of tempo. I don't know. I can go either way. Like I think if I knew I was wrong at turn 3, I would definitely prefer the Replace. But obviously, you can't know that.
They both have 5/2. I didn't even notice that.
We just took a 2 VP to File Shrine.
Okay, I'm about to give some important, very important strategic advice. Curse is not a good card. It is a stop card, so it junks your deck, and it gives you -1 point. So, just as a general word of advice, don't buy Curse. So
the Defile Shrine points can get tempting, but it's usually not worth it for like a long time.
Especially in a kingdom like this, where there's no plus buy, I could see that Defiled Shrine getting up into the double digits before it's worth buying.
Yeah.
So yes, admittedly, I did create an alt account named Jane Ailes, whose conceit was buying 2 curses, turn 1 and turn 2. And I will say, it was actually like, it's hard to beat people in the like level 45 range opening double curse. Like it's impressive how bad opening curses. I was really struggling.
Wait, even opening double copper is so much better.
How do you even afford anything next shuffle? You have like...
I remember playing a base game once where I opened double curse and hit 5 anyway. and they got Sentry turn 3. And I won that game. But yeah, it's tough. I often found that I was buying Chapel turn 3 and turn 4.
I mean, yeah, that makes sense.
The worst was when someone else bought Bishop turn 1, which kind of defeated the whole point. Because, I mean, if they buy Bishop, you can just trash your curses for free and then you're back to normal. Although it just goes to show how bad an opener Bishop was.
Yes, Bishop is a very, very bad card to open on almost every board.
But yeah, the curse is awful. It's important to understand that like the main harm of the curse in almost every kingdom is not the -1 point. A 0 victory point curse would be like 80% as bad. That's like Ruins, for example. Because it's junking your deck, and that's the biggest effect. Especially early on, like turn 2, The big effect of Curse is that it's in your deck for the rest of the game and it's getting in the way. And that effect is massive and totally dwarfs the -1 victory point aspect. So even if this Curse is functionally worth 1 point, because you like -1 + 2, you're still getting the brunt of the harm, which is the junking effect by junking yourself.
Yeah. I mean, there are boards where you can open more than 2 curses, so there's that.
Yeah. That is true.
Why exactly are we opening curses?
Are you asking why MiesvanderRoll did it? I think they were tempted by this defiled shrine, which they shouldn't have been.
So, one way to think about Shrine is that it's like taking a VP card. And, would you take, in a state, essentially, you're only buying into 2 VP and it's a curse, so it's only 1 VP, at turn 2 or turn 3, which doesn't make any sense. And then, even a little later in the game, would you buy a province? Well, if it's too early to buy a province, you probably wouldn't buy Defiled Shrine in the same situation.
Yeah, I think there's this psychological effect that exists for Defiled Shrine that doesn't exist for a state, where it's just it's there, and if I don't take it, my opponent's going to take it first. If your opponent takes it, you're happy because it was a bad play, and then now their deck's bad.
Mm-hmm.
So going back to the other opening by mistake that Mies had, the Bazaar open is also a pretty big mistake. Bazaar is definitely a card you want in this deck. In fact, getting a bunch of Bazaars does seem really important because it's the only village here, and you've got a bunch of terminal action cards you really want to play, like Replace and or Butcher, plus a bunch of terminal draw. And so I'd love to have as many Bazaars as I could get eventually. The problem is, early on, the most important thing is to get cards in your deck that have immediate impact for you, where it's helping you the very first time you see it, because that jumpstarts your deck, it gets it rolling, and then that has follow-on effects for the rest of the game. And if you open a card you're going to want eventually, well, your deck's going to get rolling very slowly, and that effect is just going to be very large. And so the Bazaar is doing almost nothing for you early on. It's a village. You don't need a village yet. You don't have any terminals in your deck. So the main effect of Bazaar, plus 2 actions, is being wasted. You want something that's helping immediately, like a Trasher, which fixes the problem of having junk in your deck.
Right. All Bazaar is doing in your first shuffle is being a peddler, which is admittedly a little bit better than usual opening village, but it's still not doing much. And there's some really powerful 5 costs here. Butcher Replace both of these. They're not just more immediately strong, but they're stronger without needing any support.
Yeah, I like otrucol's opening of Apprentice. I mean, we were just discussing Replace or Butcher, which I think are a little bit better. But Apprentice is totally reasonable, along the same lines of all 3 of them are doing one of the important things you want to do, which is trash your starting cards.
Sorry, I got distracted by trying to figure out how many curses you could actually open.
So 10 Vor Split, Curse Gold, Baker.
I think I got up to 12 curses.
Yeah, J-Nails, your next thing is you gotta queue on 3-player and start opening curses.
I'm willing to open curses. I'm less willing to open anything in a 3-player game.
So they take a werewolf over a hunting grounds. I would think if you have 8 money and you want a draw card, you would take the one that draws more cards and also has great utility with being trashed. Werewolf's, secondary ability, aside from just being a smithy, is not particularly exciting to me here. I'd like to be playing my werewolves.
Yeah, I agree. Hunting ground seems better. The more draw aspect is pretty big, but also the trash for benefit aspect is kind of nice here as well. And I also don't anticipate not playing the werewolf if I have it.
I do think werewolf got some recent buffs with ways, because you can do stuff like react to gaining, or not to gaining, that's cheap. You can just play it in your night phase as some ways, which sometimes does stuff. But on the whole, it's you usually want to play your werewolf, so it's basically just a very expensive smithy.
I mean, it's a smithy that has like. It's a smithy that gives you some benefits if you get overdraw, right? Because you're usually playing if you're drawing, but if you have an extra draw, like using it to give a hex out is, it's fine.
It's a good failure case for a smithy.
Two-player Swindler is more fun than six-player Dominion. That's a tough one. That's like asking, like, is getting eaten by a shark more fun than, like, falling out of an airplane?
It's more like asking, would you rather get eaten by...
Wait, which one's more fun?
Falling out of an airplane.
You're right.
Yeah,
you're right.
that's definitely way better.
That's a very clear-cut example.
Yeah. Okay. A better example. In this case, it's like, would you rather get eaten by, 6 piranha-sized sharks or 1 shark-sized piranha? It's like both of them are going to be pretty unpleasant.
We're taking for granted that I do eventually get eaten either way.
Yeah.
I'd rather die to the shark-sized piranha. I feel like I would go quicker. I don't want to be nibbled to death slowly.
What if you fall out of the airplane directly into the shark's mouth?
As opposed to falling out of the airplane directly into the mouths of 6 little piranha sharks?
Yes.
Yeah, I don't think that changes things. I'd still rather get eaten by the one big one.
So these players definitely like building. They're not going for provinces where I think they would.
Yeah, that's definitely the right play here.
I mean, building is great. You should definitely build. I'll just say, if you want to build, you have to trash. Like, that's like the number one thing you have to do if you want to build, if it's available.
Yep. So a few thoughts here. So firstly, what Otrucol's deck needs right now is one of these gainers, replace or butcher. So they got the trasher with Apprentice, and they're starting to draw their debt. And so now you want to start to increase what your deck can do in a turn. I would think Butcher at this point is going to beat Replace on account of I want to be butchering some hunting grounds and other stuff that probably cost as much as or less than hunting grounds. And then I want to be able to bank up those coffers. So like,
yeah,
use the Apprentice to clean up your last few coppers, add in a Butcher now, and do something like butcher hunting grounds into hunting grounds, and the next turn you can butcher that duchy into a second butcher, and now you've got 2 butchers, and just keep going from there, that sort of thing. But they're drawing the deck, and now what they need is payload, and the good payload here is butcher or replace.
So I kind of like the idea of getting 1 butcher and then 1 replace, because I think you're going to want to start handing out curses, because Mies's deck is not under control, and so giving it some more curses I think is probably fine.
Yeah, once I start thinking about getting provinces, replace is gonna be nice. I wasn't thinking about provinces there yet. I don't like that province at all.
Nah, you can do more with your turns than just province.
Yeah, so like the big problem there is like even assuming you're able to draw reliably, which is not at all guaranteed here. Now the best thing you're doing on your average turn is just buy 1 province, and that's like really underselling the potential of your deck. You want to build a deck that can be like buying province, gaining 2 provinces, which involves building a lot more. So yeah, I think Otrucol made their first big blunder of this game, which is going for provinces before adding additional gains.
Yeah, I think you get to the point where you get deck control, and then you absolutely want a second card capable. I mean, it's not a gainer in the traditional sense, right? Like someone pointed out at the start, it doesn't technically increase the number of cards without hunting grounds or something, but like you want a second card that's either butcher or replace that can actually mill cards and turn hunting grounds into good stuff, especially if it's butcher, because then you can start building up coffers, turn 6s into 6s and build 2 coffers, all that fun stuff.
Yeah, like basically, if you've gone to the effort of getting your deck under control, you should be getting more out of that than a single province per turn. That's what you get out of money.
It's a good way to think about it.
I would think you just kill the hunting grounds there.
Reasonable. Yeah, you could have take the battle shrine points. 4 points, not that many points. I would not I'm not so hopeful about this ending in 2 hours.
We appear to not.
We're
be
still
on
in
pace
game
for that.
2. Yeah. We're on pace for like, 4 hours?
3.5 hour match.
That's no bueno.
Is 1-0 otrucol. Huh.
The most interesting in this kingdom, or is the most interesting in general?
Certainly a pretty crazy one. I think cultist also has some pretty crazy properties.
There
There's
aren't
definitely more
that many
interesting
on trash cards.
There's so many more interesting on trash benefit cards.
Wait, are there cards that have? How many cards are there that give benefits when they're trashed?
Cultist,
that many,
rat,
right?
flag. What? There's not 120.
I mean, like the underlined ones, not like.
Yeah.
The ones I can think of are flag, fortress, cultist, squire, catacombs,
Silk merchant.
silk.
Merchant.
Haunted mirror.
Haunted mirror, yep.
Okay, sure. I don't know if you can. You're not counting magic lamp, right? Because it's not.
Yeah, I'm not counting that because it doesn't count when you do it traditionally.
Yeah,
you said squire, right?
Yeah. Rats.
Oh, rats is a good one. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Overgrown estate.
Ooh, envious hurts a lot there, huh?
It really shouldn't, because these decks shouldn't have golds in them.
But they do.
Yeah, DZ, I think you might just be wrong because Fortress is an amazing card.
I love Fortress.
Procession also amazing card. So
DZ's card preferences are just like the exact opposite of what they ought to be. Hates Fortress, hates Way of the Mouse. Who's just defending Swindler.
You don't like Way of the Mouse? Oh, Way of the Mouse is fun.
DZ doesn't even like Procession. Bans Procession, in fact.
Procession is a wonderful card.
I know, right?
Procession is just like chaos, and I love it.
Procession with Fortress? No, there's a fun
Oh my god, this is an amazing Night Watch. You guard that night.
that was a lot of cards. So I think otrucol has the lead, but it's really unclear because the big thing that Mies has going for them is they have a replace in their deck, which is just like really significant late in the game, and otrucol has no ability to gain additional cards. Well, they can gain extra duchies off these hunting grounds, but that's it. I think you got a bit of static on your end, kHz.
Hold on, let me try to fix it.
So otrucol definitely had a lead for most of this game, I would say, and it's become less clear. And I think the main reason is because they went for provinces too early, rather than moving towards additional gains. And now I think it's kind of anyone's game.
Yeah, it's definitely close. Top decking the copper is weird there. I mean, you might as well top deck the gold, right? Because you don't need to buy province.
Yes. I also question playing this Night Watchman. You just triggered a shuffle that seems pretty bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you just top deck the gold and then don't play the Night Watchman.
That seems reasonable to me.
And at this point, I'm happily trashing the gold in the province, I think. You could consider actually Night Watch. No. I was about to consider Night Watchman into Duchy, but I'm pretty sure these next 5 cards are mostly bad too, right?
I mean, Cursed Estate is also a possible play, like buy dungeon or something.
Yeah, that actually sounds totally fun as well. I think upgrade the curse and then buy a dungeon seems pretty good. This
State to what?
Is more confusing to me.
I don't know. Yeah, like you can score a number of points by turning Curse to
State to silver.
Cursed estate, because you get rid of 1 point. So basically, your own score goes up by 2, and your opponent's score goes down by 1. So cursed estate's basically a 3-point swing.
Yeah.
That was very confusing, but I'm not sure why you want top deck silver.
Otrucol's deck is kind of falling apart a bit here. It doesn't do anything anymore. Like, they built a deck that was engine-y in nature. Like, they did the part where you thin and you add draw, and that was all good. And then they got to the part where they're supposed to add payload, and then they just let their deck fall apart by buying provinces instead. And now they've got, like, I think just enough payload in their deck to hit, like, province on a real good draw. But that requires them to continuously draw their deck, which they're not going to be able to do reliably, since they're not continuing to build.
Well, this is the province here, at least. Like, given that Otrucol has a points lead, you can consider apprenticing, like, provinces as Otrucol and just buy a province and mill it.
Yeah, I mean, on this particular turn, I think I would just apprentice the werewolf. But definitely on other turns, I would consider apprenticing provinces.
Yeah, apprentice werewolf's probably just better, but for the future.
Yeah, I think Mies kind of underutilized that replace there.
Oh yeah, I forgot the dungeon coming in. Never mind.
Dungeon comes in, saves the turn.
Big dungeon. I mean, he clears discard provinces there, yeah. All right, should be another province then for Otrucol.
Yes, looks like it's in hand.
So what's our win percentage? Where's the bar?
I'm gonna say it's like 88% Otrucol.
I would give Otrucol like 95%, assuming they province on this turn.
They'll definitely province this turn, so I'll say 91.2%.
So accurate.
91.2% is the probability of hitting a 5 on turn 3 or 4 if you open double silver.
Would you purchase this Hunting Grounds? I don't know what those bottom 5 cards are.
I would definitely not want those. Yeah.
Yeah, seeing this hand, I think I might have just killed that Hunting Grounds.
I mean, you can also just play the Hunting Grounds, right?
That's also an option, yeah.
But like, certainly you don't want those as your next hand because that doesn't do anything.
So I think this is 2 duchies here.
Yeah, replace silver to duchy by another duchy, play Night Watch. I don't think there's much else you can do.
Yeah, it seems like the play.
What else could you do? You could take 1 duchy and then buy Stampede and hope to get back to the replace and double province next turn. That's not enough points if you do it, though.
Not enough points.
Yeah. Okay, my estimate of 88% might have been a little bit low.
No, I don't know.
Still looking pretty tough.
Otrucol does need to actually province at some point. Like, Mies could double province here this turn, like a next turn.
Like, if Otrucol gets duchy on either of these turns, then even double province is enough.
7 doesn't quite cut it.
I mean, hitting duchy is still not bad for Otrucol, because with 37 points, now Mies can't win province.
I'm also pretty sure you could have just stampeded here's Otrucol and guaranteed a province next turn.
That's not
because there's no threat of Mies. There's no threat of Mies winning this turn, right?
Yeah,
because the replaces in discard. regardless, like this should be winning for otrucol. You can just well, I guess you can't mill province yet. But just getting a province should be enough to win.
I think you could totally trash province here.
I mean, I would play dungeon first.
Pay off. Yeah.
I mean, play dungeon first and see what you draw. Like, you don't have to.
Oh yeah, definitely we're playing the dungeon first.
Yeah, like if you draw nothing, then you trash province and it's fine. But like, you might not have to.
Yeah, I think I'm killing province.
Well, there's hunting grounds there.
Nice.
Oh, there you go. See, look at that. Just draw like that. It's fine.
You gotta have faith.
All right, now you can kill.
Yeah, new favorite
werewolf?
Is werewolf, I think.
Yeah, I'm apprenticing werewolf here.
Nope, not going for it.
No.
That's not doing it.
Dungeon?
Sure.
Dungeon seems good. I like dungeon. With this much green, dungeon seems a lot better.
Yeah.
Because passage just like moves your green to like a future turn, but you're still drawing it. Dungeon just gets rid of it.
Yeah.
Not a state.
Yeah, you don't need that estate all too much. The 1 point difference isn't big here. You just need to get like one more province and you win. This turn I'd be buying Stampede.
This might hit province.
Actually, wait.
So on my swing meter, I think I'm only down to like 90, maybe high 80s. True.
I still have a hard time seeing how Mies wins this game.
Yeah.
I mean, unless otrucol just like doesn't take like green cards or something.
If otrucol realizes that this can trash good cards, they're like 100% to win.
Guess they are getting a little close to half VP.
I mean, you can trash a hunting grounds for duchy and 6 cards. Sounds pretty sweet.
Yeah, trash and hunting grounds seems great around now.
Or just double. Actually, probably just double duchy as Mies here though.
Yes.
We are approaching a 3 pile. Curses are almost gone. Duchy's almost gone.
Wait.
What's the third pile?
Estates.
What about Duchy Stampede as Mies? If your opponent doesn't green, that sets you up for a potential win on the following turn.
That's a good point. Yeah, that could work.
Actually, is that even true? Like, does Mies's deck have 8 money in the entire deck if you trash this gold next turn? Or this turn?
Ooh, we're doing the province thing there. Okay. I mean, I'm not even sure I would resign as Mies here, though. I mean, it's pretty terrible position, but people who make mistakes.
Yeah, that's true. The odds your opponent makes a mistake are much higher in low leagues.
All right, this is a province here.
It's better to not resign. Yes, you could even hex your opponent.
Like if I was playing like an A-Smith in this position, I'd resign. But
not hex your opponent.
Let's just not hex our opponent.
Draw all the cards.
Don't make them make decisions.
This is true.
I really just like hexing your opponent like on the win. Like if you have the option of playing the militia for, if you don't need the money, just click the last province.
Oh yeah, I don't want to be misconstrued as seriously suggesting you need to hex your opponent after winning the game.
Yeah.
Okay, so 2-0 for otrucol.
That sounds right.
Game?
All right, we've got more trashing. Raise trashes estates very well. Counterfeit trashes coppers very well.
This one looks...
There's no villages.
Crown's a village.
Oh yeah, you're right.
I don't think you can build here though. Like you technically have all the
Crown
things,
Imp Courtyard Engine,
but
sounds a little sketchy.
it looks like it doesn't come together very well.
Yeah, the engineer is definitely sketchy. Although, I don't know, you got grave robber payload. Is that good enough?
You could try it. You could try to build something with get a few imps early on and then crown a bunch of imps and courtyards into grave robbers.
I would
real rickety.
I would try. I would try. It seems like very dubious, but I would try at least.
I wouldn't rule it out. I think the safer play is just something like courtyard money-ish.
So winner lose against egg.
The thing with courtyard money,
just raise is just going to trash the curses, and then you're shit out of luck.
But you can do so. Like, you would probably pillage if you turn as the engine, right?
I don't trust my deck to be able to like gain and play pillages reliably.
I think if your deck has
we have grave robber to fish them out of the trash.
Yeah, grave robber fishes the pillage out for you, right? So you would need like crown, grave robber, crown, courtyard, pillage, right? Like you could do it.
You throw a cantrip in this deck, and I think I'd be willing to build. Like put a pearl diver in it. I just find the decks with like any throne room variant is the only village to be infinitely more awkward when there's no source of plus action at all.
I'm not disagreeing at all. Like this, the engine is super wonky.
Yeah.
Technically, you can crown raise as a village, but you need to trash 2 cards. It's like the worst version of hideout ever.
Yeah.
But like the upside of the village is for the engine so fun.
No!
That's not right.
Oh, we're doing Peace Zone.
Yeah, we shouldn't be doing Peace Zone.
Andy, please. Please explain, Andy.
Halo Andy is the J-League Whisperer.
A prophet of Peace Zone.
So Philosopher's Stone is the worst card in the game. Like the entire game of Dominion.
Could be.
It's so hard to find a board where you ever want Peace Stone.
The only context I ever find myself wanting Philosopher's Stone is with Keep, where it's just like it's technically a treasure and therefore technically worth 5 points, and you're only getting it for that fact.
And you might pick up a potion. You might pick up a potion anyway when Keep's on the board.
Yeah.
Can happen.
Yeah, exactly.
So potions 5 points, Philosopher's Stone's 5 points. Like they're basically provinces. So you know.
That's I think the exclusive use of Philosopher's Stone is being a thing that is technically a treasure. Yeah, Philosopher's Stone is so bad. It's just like the worst. So to explain the problems of it.
Yeah, let's talk about why it's bad.
So firstly, you have to build a deck like Garden style, where it's just like full of junk for the Philosopher's Stone to be worth a lot. So you're already like constrained by the fact that you have to make your deck bad. But then if you've got a terrible deck full of junk, it's really hard to acquire all too many Peace Stones, because you either take a bunch of potions, in which case you both spend a bunch of buys on potions, which themselves suck, and with a bunch of potions, you're not too likely to hit 3 potion all too reliably. Or you take 1 or 2 potions, in which case in a deck full of junk, you're not seeing your potions every turn, you're not getting all too many Philosopher's Stones. So it's really hard to have a deck that's both like good for Philosopher's Stone in the sense of having a bunch of junky cards in it, and also has a bunch of Philosopher's Stones, because you're not going to find the potions to buy the Philosopher's Stone. And so it's sort of like an inherent contradiction in terms of the card.
The only times I've ever played with Philosopher's Stone are where I'm using either Hero or Tragic Hero to gain a treasure, and I happen to have a fat deck. There's no platinum, and it's sometimes better than gold, but that's such a rare, like, the stars have to line up. You need one of 2 cards in the game, one of which isn't even a supply card, MP Stone, and you need it to actually be better than gold, which is rare.
I remember.
All right, but we said second Peace Stone.
Philosopher's Stone could be interesting if it cost like 5 coins, but not a potion. Like the potion cost just kills any use it might have.
I think the last time I actually tried to go for like Philosopher's Stone like as a deck, not just like a thing for points for keep or something, was like almost a year ago, and the rest of the kingdom was just like objectively terrible and looked like it wasn't coming together. And so I went for a Philosopher's Stone, and it worked out as horribly as you would expect. And I'm pretty sure in retrospect it was worse than just buying gold, silvers, and coppers and nothing else.
Yep. So they're definitely playing very money-ish here, which makes sense.
For money, the card I want the most is Courtyard. I think Courtyard is really good in money.
Courtyard is a great money card, like very, very strong. Because Courtyard draws cards, which is good for money, but it also lets you smooth things out, right? So like you draw 7 coins, top deck 1 coin, buy gold. You draw 9 coins, top deck a copper, buy profits. So you get to smooth out your turns a little bit, which helps a lot with money decks.
Also, if you hit another terminal, you can just tuck it for next turn.
Yep.
Yeah, like if you had 3 Courtyards, then you're going to play 1 per turn more often. In fact, Courtyard money is better than Smithy money, despite Smithy drawing 3 to Courtyard's functional only drawing 2.
Yeah, Courtyard's sort of the bridge between like the simple money cards like Smithy and sort of the more complex ones that actually outperform it, like Gear. Courtyard's kind of like halfway in between.
Courtyard's been my avatar for like 10 years.
Is it that old? Which expansion?
Intrigue, right?
Is it Intrigue card?
It's Intrigue.
Oh wow, that is ancient.
Yeah.
Yeah, I only know it's Intrigue because I actually played with it physically. And we only had the first couple sets when I played with actual cards.
So otrucol bought a gold, and I'm actually not going to complain. This kingdom is weak enough that buying gold is acceptable.
Yeah,
Still think I'd rather take like a counterfeit.
The way they're playing though is, I'm not sure IGG would be bad the way they're playing.
Yeah, I mean, I think Torment or IGG or counterfeit are all like clearly better than gold here.
Is a curse even bad in the Philosopher's Stone deck?
Oh right. Oh.
Well, they're basically cursing themselves.
Yeah. Well, Mies could pick up IGG, right? Because then you're getting coppers, and then that powers up your Philosopher's Stones.
That's true. IGG might actually fit in the Philosopher's Stone deck. But yeah, mostly I think my first like 2 5s are probably counterfeits. And I could see if you hit 5 after that, IGG versus Crown is like, it's kind of a toss-up.
So what's the max we're going to see Philosopher's Stone be worth? I'm going to say 2.
No, way more than that, right? Like, it's already worth at least 2, right?
5?
5 is a reasonable guess.
It could get up that
How
high,
does
yeah.
this card work again? Let me read it. Oh, it's 1 per 5 cards round. Okay.
I think it should be 1 per 1 card. I think that would be good.
I thought it was like Gardens and it was per 10.
I wish it were like worth 1 per 5 cards you have in play.
That would be very cool. But it would
be a lot more interesting.
Have to cost something different. I think the problem is any potion cost treasure just doesn't work as a scalable treasure.
Like it would need to be an instant payload because like an instant only pick it up reliably.
Exactly. It could be kind of like Horn or something, right? Like, I mean, Horn could cost potion, and we'd probably still buy Horns.
Yeah, it'd be a pretty big nerf to Horn of Plenty, but like it would still be fine just because Horn is so good as is.
Mm-hmm. Or not being able to gain Horn obviously would be like a huge nerf. Also, you'd have to get potion. But I still think we'd get Horn. Whereas, like, I don't think there's almost anything you could price Peastone at with potion that makes it competitive.
What if you
No, Peastone can't cost potion.
-8 potion. So like if you have plus buy, you could just buy Peastone and then have 8 money and then buy province.
Okay, there, if I'm reading the log right, the Peastone only produced $2. That's very depressing.
Yeah.
You are correct.
But it's at 3 now.
Do you
All right.
grave rob this crown into a province?
You can crown the potion.
Do what? Yeah, I'm pretty sure you just turn the crown into a province. Like, what the hell else are you doing this turn?
That seems pretty good. That seems fine to me. Grave Robber is not a card I think
actually,
wants in this deck.
You could afford Philosopher's Stone here. I forgot about Way of the Sheep. Maybe that's better?
Oh, yeah, that's right. Sheep gets you a Philosopher's Stone.
So, is Philosopher's Stone better for this deck than Province? That's not clear to me, though.
I'm going to say no.
The game has enough time left that it's fine. A little unclear.
I think.
Okay, so like this doesn't. Yeah.
Like that Philosopher's Stone that you buy would have to get you more than one province to be worth that.
So I'm guessing they didn't see that they could use Crown and Sheep there to get to Peace Stone, but that also might be an advantage because they bought Courtyard instead of Peace Stone, which is a much better card.
Courtyard is a good card.
That's great. Very good card.
But yeah, for context, you could have either crowned the... Or not crowned. You could have either played the Courtyard or... third time. You could have either played the Grave Robber or the Crown as Way of the Sheep, which would have gotten you to 3+ potion to afford
Alright. Peace was at 4 right now. No, that's not true. I'm still at 2. Never mind.
Sad. They bought a gold.
They need to buy provinces. It's province time.
For that, like, this deck isn't gonna get better with time.
Yeah, province is like the best you can expect your deck to do at this point. So if you have province, buy province. That's Comfort's a pretty good card. Trash and Copper and getting some money for it.
And that plus buy. Everything with plus buy is a good card.
Ruin?
What about that? No. Trade Route's not a good card, but it's fine. Yeah, looking at this board, like I would really want to try the engine, but it's so wonky.
I don't believe
The more reasonable deck is just like Courtyard Money, where the money is like counterfeits and stuff.
Yeah, I think Ig probably has a place in that too. It seems fine to buy a couple.
I've got a suspicion that these decks are over-terminaled.
I'm not sure Mies's deck is over-terminaled. Otrucol's deck looks a little over-terminaled, I think.
Yeah. Otrucol is the one I was thinking of when I said that. Perhaps I was overgeneralizing to their opponent. In general, if you're playing something, like money like this, something like 2 to 4 terminal action cards, depending on how thick your deck is the right number. Like, you want to probably find an action per turn, but it'd be better not to find an action every turn than to find multiple actions per turn. Because if you're finding multiple actions per turn and you can't play them all, the extra actions are just becoming like junk in your deck that are actively hurting you.
Courtyard's the exception there, because Courtyard lets you top deck the actions you can't use.
Yeah, but I would think like a deck that had like 3 Courtyards would be good here. Because bear in mind, you've also got Thinning, which is going to reduce the total number of terminals you want, because you're going to see the terminals you have more often. So like 3 Courtyards, I think, is probably the maximum I would want here.
Yeah, I would probably open like Raise Silver on this board, I think. But then I would play for at least 2, maybe 3 Courtyards.
Yeah, like Raise Silver, get a counterfeit and a Courtyard, and go from there.
Yeah, something like that.
Seems reasonable.
I would take Raise on the open just because Trashing the States is really good.
Okay, I've got a scenario for you. You've seen your silver already in your turn 3 hand, but you did not hit 5. Your turn 4 hand is Raise 3 Copper's Estate. Are you trashing the estate or sheeping the Raise to get counterfeit?
Sheeping the Raise.
That's hard, actually. So what do you... Wait, you have 4 coins on turn...
Yeah, you hit 4 money on turn 3. So, like, your top 5 are, like, silver, copper, 2 estates. Then your next 5 are raise 3 coppers estate, which would make your bottom 2 both coppers.
Yeah, so what I would do is I would buy Courtyard with the 4-cost hand and then sheep the raise for the 5.
Seems good.
I mean, you might bottom at the raise, which would be sad, but I think you'd have to play for that line.
I think raise Courtyard sounds fine, to answer your question, B-Sly.
Raise Courtyard's totally fine. Raise Courtyard has...
Wait, what are we doing? This is...
We don't like plus buy?
Interesting. So Raise Courtyard has, like, if you draw, like, both Raise and Courtyard on turn 3, like, the upside is really, really big.
I guess I was just assuming that Philosopher's Stone is going to be worth more, but it was in fact only worth 3, just like the gold.
Yeah.
It's P Stone. It's a crappy gold right now.
Yeah.
It was a crappy silver before. Now it's crappy gold.
This Grave Robber is also doing remarkably little.
Well, you have a very treasure-heavy deck, right? Like Grave Robber doesn't do anything without actions to trash and gain, but like you don't have those things.
Yeah. So Grave Robber is in general a pretty weak card. I would say its best case is usually in an already very strong engine that's got like great actions and draw that is otherwise kind of lacking in strong payload cards. Because Grave Robber is like, it's very action and draw intensive because you have to like, it's terminal, it's a stop card. You have to trash another action card which you have to have drawn. But it does let you gain and play stuff the same turn. And so it can escalate an engine that's already very high on actions and draw and needs payload. But in anything short of that, it's usually pretty weak.
Yeah, Grave Robber Cursed Village is a great combo, though.
Yeah, that's a good example of like a thing that would make you have plenty of actions and draw for the most part.
It's great. It's great when you're trashing Cursed Villages and getting them again, and just getting hexes over and over again.
I'd say Grave Robber's best synergy is probably Silk Merchant.
Oh yeah, Grave Robber Silk Merchant is great.
Granted, Silk Merchant is like the best card in the game, so I'm not sure how much of that is attributable to Grave Robber as opposed to Silk Merchant, but like that's probably Grave Robber's strongest synergy.
I mean, you had to trash a Silk Merchant for things and gain a Silk Merchant for things, so...
Yeah, Border Village, as Andy points out, is another big one.
Bustling
Being able
Village.
to regain... Bustling Village?
Yeah,
Border.
you get the boon multiple times.
Yes, but you can do Border Village to Province and then regain the Border Village and gain a Duchy, or, you know, other cards besides green cards.
Now, I will point out, like, part of the reason that trashing the crown earlier would have been a nice play is because you're the only one with a Grave Robber. So that crown is just sitting in the trash until you pick it back up, and it gives you Grave Robber something to do the next time you see it.
Alright. Push, let's see, still at 3.
Okay, well, I guess we're a little bit too optimistic about the quality of these Philosopher's Stones, which is saying a lot. I thought they would at least end up better than gold.
That province there is a little bold, but it might work out.
Yeah.
So this is good.
I guess we just crown the Courtyard here and we look for 8 coins.
What else do you do?
You could just play the Courtyard and hope to crown a gold, would be the alternative.
Or a Philosopher's Stone.
A $4 Philosopher's Stone?
Okay, well this is not the one here.
I think you just top deck Crown is the best card. I think go for Courtyard.
Courtyard's also fine.
Looking
Can
at
you
this
sheet
hand, I
the
think
crown?
they are both over terminals.
You can sheet the crown, right? Yeah, okay. Alright, let's see if this hits 8. It does not.
So does Mies hit 8 here? So firstly, would you hit 8 if you sheep the Courtyard? You have 3, the Philosopher's Stone have to be worth 5. It requires you to have 25 cards. I think the answer is no, right?
Well, Peacestone's definitely not worth 5. It's worth at most 4, because those were 3, like, like a couple turns ago.
Yeah, I don't think I have 25 other cards in the deck. So I think you're playing the courtyard and hoping you draw some good stuff.
Well, now you're so far behind.
Ooh,
Now you
should
can
get
even
there.
eight doesn't win though.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah.
I missed the part where their opponent bought a dodgy.
Wait, why did they crown the copper?
That's a good question.
It doesn't matter because you're buying this.
No, but you finally get to crown that piece stone. Get the value.
This is a win here, right? Yeah. Okay, so
Yeah.
Otrucol takes 3-0.
Okay.
I can't believe piece stone lost.
Listen, I was rooting for Peace Stone. I was.
It would have been funny to see Philosopher's Stone win. On the upside, this has taught us an important lesson about the quality of Philosopher's Stone as a card.
It didn't get above 3, did it? Did it get to 4?
No. It was 3 at the end there.
It might have been the max.
Yeah. So it's a gold that's way harder to get and adds potions to your deck.
Well, and it's only a gold late in the game. It's like a copper and a silver early.
Right.
So this is an
Alright.
interesting kingdom. Oh, you got a lot of static when you're in again, kHz.
Damn it, I don't know why that's happening. I'm gonna try to fix my audio. We'll be back later.
Okay, dokie.
So this board is pretty strong.
Yeah, I think this is a reasonably strong board. You can definitely build here.
There's no buy, but there's a lot of gains.
Yeah. The tricky part is if you're both building, I don't want to get too far behind on provinces because it's not super easy to catch up. You can gain duchies, but like a decent engine that provinces earlier is good. But I think the engine should hands down beat money here. So the
money looks pretty bad.
Yeah, the main village, the only village is Border Village. The draw is Envoy. That's sufficient, and you got Junk Dealer as well as Bat for thinning. The limit is there's no plus buy, so that's what you got to play around. But that's not a huge problem here because you've got tons of gainers. Artisan can gain things, Vampire can gain things, Dismantle can gain things. You can't gain provinces. You can only get one province per turn, but you could gain multiple duchies and also buy a province. You could also play a lot of chariot races for additional points. And so you can build to a deck that does a lot.
I would not definitely don't open chariot race. Chariot race doesn't usually hit on open. 5-2 is great. I would open Vampire, I guess, over Junk Dealer.
I'm gonna say yes on Vampire. I think Vampire and then gain of Junk Dealer sounds good. I won't begrudge them the Junk Dealer opening because like Junk Dealer is normally a pretty good open as well.
Yeah, but I think Vampire is great because it gains you Junk Dealers.
Yeah.
So the thing about building a little bit longer here, though, is with Dungeon, you can pretty much set up your chariot races to hit pretty often, so you probably have a little bit extra points that way.
Artisan probably even better for that.
Depends what they have on top, right? But yeah, because Artisan can only top deck. Oh no, sorry, Artisan talks anything. What am I saying? It's late.
Yeah. So yeah, like provided your opponent doesn't have like a province top deck, you could like use Artisan to like put your most expensive card on top and then guarantee that your chariot race draw something expensive.
I would I want to play with like probably a Dungeon. I guess Enchantress you can play with.
On 4-3, how are you opening? I was thinking Dungeon Silver, but like I could see Poacher or Envoy or even Enchantress being opens as well.
I wouldn't like Well,
the fact that the opponent opened Junk Dealer and you saw that makes Enchantress look a little bit better because the Enchantress might hit the Junk Dealer, which would be quite a pain in the ass for your opponent. If they open Vampire, then Enchantress would definitely look worse.
Ooh, Vampire being mean there. Jeez, that's a look how rough that Vampire is.
Painful.
You lost your Junk Dealer for a shuffle, and you trashed your Envoy forever. That's a bad one.
That's horrible. This reminds me of the interview for the championships that happened last year, where they interview all the top 8 folks. And there was this Japanese player named Pop180 who made it to the top 8. And they were asking him, like, what's, like, your least favorite card? And most people said normal things. Like, I was just like, I hate Swindler. And Pop180 said Vampire. And at the time, I was just like, what the hell are you talking about? Vampire is, like, a totally normal card. But he was like, sometimes there's these hexes that happen, like, early in the game where like you get like a nothing hex like famine or something, and they get a hex that just like trashes the other vampire or something absurd, and it just totally steals the game. And since that interview, I've just noticed this happening like all the damn time. And Pop 180 is like not wrong. The vampire can be really swingy occasionally with plays like this. Swindler is the correct answer to least favorite card.
Swindler is probably the most common, at least.
I will also accept Possession, Mountebank. You'd say Cultist if you want.
Man. I wish my ban list was bigger.
Mask is not a bad answer. I'll take Mask.
I like Mask.
I used to hate Mask. I still dislike Mask a bit.
Masquerade's a great card. Get out of here.
It's really strong.
Get out of here with that.
It's like excellent for winning.
Wait, why do we not discard? Why not discard the vampire there?
That's a good question. So
discard vampire was like very clearly the play.
Vampire's not an action, so your opponent can still play it.
Mm-hmm.
Wait, also they didn't discard the silver either. They discarded the copper.
Okay, that makes literally no sense.
Are they confused about what the thing is? So when your opponent plays an envoy, you're looking at 5 cards that they're potentially going to put in their hand. So it would behoove you to discard the best cards because you don't want them to put the good cards in their hand, not the worst cards. I don't understand why Mies discarded copper.
I would vampire for a junk dealer right now as otrucol.
Sounds reasonable.
Ooh, the loot's pretty mean too. Damn, those are 2 bad hexes, huh?
Yeah, this vampire's doing work. Gain's a poacher. I'm not a fan of that.
No, you gotta get rid of our junk cards in your deck.
Yeah. So, like, an important thing here is when there's no plus buy, you really don't need much money. Like, the most money you'll ever need in your entire deck is 8 money. Because you should be drawing your deck. And
maybe 10.
10 for
Colonnade.
How does 10 help Colonnade? Are you thinking of Basilica?
Oh, sorry. Yes, I am.
That's not the right one.
Listen, I've played how many games of Dominion? I still don't know what these things do.
Yeah, so Basilica is the one that gives you victory points if you overpay for something by at least 2. If that were in the kingdom, then conceivably maybe one would want 10. It is the last not in this kingdom. So yeah, the most money you ever need here is 8. And even then, not for a while. Like, the most money I want here is 6. I want to be buying Border Village on as many turns as I can, and probably Artisan once.
Yeah, this is kind of the board where you should be drawing your deck every turn, playing your 8 coins, and then buying a province, like, in the end game.
So what's
Just
Mies
do
trying
the
to
thing
undo
to that
here?
point first.
Oh, is there a bug? Interesting. Oh, I think they undid a little too far there.
How far did we just undo?
What?
We just undid like a whole turn. All right.
So I think what happens is so it was otrucol's turn and Mies pressed the undo button, and I think by default that takes you back to the last decision that the person pressing the undo button made, and so it's undoing
Makes
back
sense.
to Mies's last decision. You could
Makes sense.
Yeah, so obviously otrucol could hit undo, or Mies could type /undo, and then click the point in otrucol's turn that they want to undo back to, and that should also work.
I think Border Village Envoy here. Vampire's also reasonable, I think.
That seems fine to me. Turns that
I
don't
do
hit
wanna
6 are just a
jump
little bit
dealer.
sad. Because, like, the main thing I want to be doing for a while is just buying the 6-cost cards.
Yes, I'm gonna buy Border Village every turn for a bit here. 5 again.
Sad.
These decks need more draw or more thinning, or both.
More of all the stuff. Yeah, Drink Dealer, I think here... Enchantress is not what I anticipated.
Bad. Would you play with Dismantle on this board?
I'm going to say... I don't know.
I don't know either.
So as far as gaining 5s goes, Dismantle's not bad at that, because you can dismantle golds into 5s and get the gold back, so it's just like a 5-cost gainer. It's a little bit worse.
It's worse.
Go ahead.
It's just like worse. It's like a worse artisan, basically.
Yeah, it's like a cheaper but worse artisan, or a worse vampire. The upsides are, it's easier to pick up than artisan, of course. You don't have to spend a 6-cost buy on it. You could gain it off of your vampire or something. So you, like, buys are precious here, because you only get 1 buy per turn, but gains are abundant. So you could, like, gain a dismantle off of vampire so as to not spend a buy on that. You can devote your buys to border villages. And the second thing you could do is it makes it easier to get gold. You know, like, just you want to have 8 money in your deck, so like 2 golds and a silver or something like that would get you to 8. And I don't want to spend any buys on golds, because the buys should be border villages. And so dismantle could get you a gold or 2. Oh no.
Just bought a gold, yeah.
Well, you see, gold is like not a very good card.
I would have definitely taken like border village, something there, maybe envoy.
Yeah, I mean, look at these amazing 6s that I want so much.
Yeah, the only problem with artisan here is like it competes with border village, and border village is very good.
Yeah. That is the coldest take I have ever heard, DZ. Frigid.
That take is ice cold. You know what's very surprising to me in this game right now?
What's very surprising?
Colony is still at 12 points.
Yeah. So I do appreciate that they're not over prioritizing it. I think that's the tendency people have of like getting too focused on like I need to buy the action card I have in play to get the points and not buy the card I need. So that's good. It's nonetheless surprising to me that you wouldn't just like circumstantially happen to need the action card you happen to have in play at least once or twice, and inadvertently get 2 points, at least 1 point in the game.
Yeah, I agree. Like I wouldn't buy something for the colony points, but like the way I would want to buy this deck, build this deck, would have me taking colony points, because I'd be buying border villages a lot with border village in play.
Yeah, I would expect most of the colony points to be gained off of border village. Yeah, I don't understand what the value is of the poachers here.
Poacher's gonna get real bad when that pile goes.
Well, they have like a mutual disinterest in emptying the poachers because they hurt themselves. They're both really committed to this pile, aren't they?
Yeah. All right. Border village here looks pretty good. Scores 2 points.
Border village looks wonderful. I'm going to say otrucol ahead on account of having 2 border villages, hopefully 3 soon, to your opponent to 0.
I would certainly want to trash Copper Estate here. Why would you take the So, okay, like let's say even you want the poacher, right? Let's say you want poacher, that's fine. You can take a free border village though, and do the same thing, right?
So yeah, so if you bought the border village, you would also get the colonnade points. They had both in play. And if you bought the border village, you would gain the poacher. So it's just they passed up on a free border village for no reason.
Yeah, it was just like I want a free border village was what happened there.
Yeah, that didn't make any sense. So to expand a bit on border village, it's a pretty good strong card in its own right. Its effect is functional just like village, the 3-cost vanilla village from the base set. But obviously you gain another card whenever you gain it. And so it's like if you're getting like a 5 or a 4 anyway, you're spending like 1 or 2 to get like a bonus village off of that. So it's like a really cheap way to add villages when you were going to buy something else anyway. And it's not spending a buy. So like in this kingdom where buys are limited, then getting to get 2 cards for 1 buy is obviously really good. The main reason it's so strong here, though, on top of just the general like getting villages for cheap is nice, is it's the only village. And you got a bunch of strong stuff you can do, lots of gains, lots of draw, and you want to build, but the build needs villages. And so just any stack of villages, basically, in this kingdom, if it were the only village, would be pretty valuable. And border village just happens to be the village here. Yeah, so obviously Chariot Race makes Border Village a little bit better than Vanilla Village in this kingdom as well, because it costs 6, so Chariot Race likes expensive cards. And then there's obviously combos as well, like we were talking about Grave Robber in the last game, where you can trash Border Village and then regain it to get an additional free card off of it when you regain it. So there's like situational combos like that as well that can be really nice.
Man, so many poachers. I don't understand.
Yeah, I'm confused by their love of the poacher.
I mean, like, it's fine. Like, it's a fine card. It gives you a coin and the card actions. That's fine. But like, once the poacher pile goes, like, you're stuck with all these oases, which is not a good card here.
Yeah, like poacher would be like a reasonable card to get maybe 1 to 2 copies of here early to get you to 6 money to get border villages.
You could open poacher on this board, right? That's like the only poachers I would want, though. I think.
Yeah, like I wouldn't open poacher here, but like it would be defensible to open poacher.
I don't think I would, but like it's not like poacher's often a decent open because it hits 5 reasonably often.
This would be a helpful curse, except you're being forced to gain another treasure.
This aqueduct is getting big though, huh?
Yeah.
Are we taking a duchy here? Like a 8-point duchy? Yeah, 8-point duchy sounds pretty good actually. Otrucol seems to be in pretty good shape here.
What's the poacher split? Let's find out. Gains a poacher.
That's a sentence I've never heard before.
It is 5-4 in favor of Mies. So, like, there really isn't any particular incentive on either of these players to take the last poacher. Like, if Mies takes it, they're hurting themselves more than their opponent because they've got 6 of the now bad cards. If Otrucol takes the final poacher, well, now the poacher split is even at 5-5, so you're hurting your opponent, but you're hurting yourself just as much. They've kind of got this like mutual like stalemate, I think, over clicking the last poacher.
Mutually assured destruction on the poacher pile.
Well, I don't think it's a true Zugzwang because that requires that the other person be forced to move if you don't. Like if I don't take poacher, my opponent is required to take a poacher or something to that effect.
Oh, that's a good buy there. I'm happy about that. Border Village Envoy seems great.
I am proud of you, Otrucol, for that buy. That looked like a hand where they were going to do a bad thing, like buy a province or a gold or something, and they did a good thing.
Yeah. Generally speaking, like if a board has like good trashing and good villages and good draw, like you should be drawing your deck, right? Like you should be getting draw. And the first thing you want to focus on is trashing and adding draw to your deck and just drawing your deck. And then once you're drawing your deck, then you can add payload cards, right? Then you can add your golds or whatever other cards that do things. But like step 1 is usually getting your deck all in your hand first.
Yeah, I don't think Mies has yet had a game where they like really like got deck control, where you're reliably drawing your deck every turn. Otrucol had that game with the Replace and Butcher where they like briefly had a point where they'd gotten the deck under control, and they didn't do the next step, which is like add more payload. They just immediately started turning to provinces, and the deck fell apart again.
Yeah. Almost there, but yeah. So control first, payload second is my usual like general advice.
Yeah.
I mean, most of the starter cards are trash, right? I guess there's still 6 cards out there. But yeah, like lower level players tend to just undervalue trashing by like a significant margin.
8, I believe.
8? Am I counting wrong? There's 5 coppers in the state.
So 1 estate and 7 coppers.
So I said there's. Oh yeah, sorry, I can't. I just can't count. Yes, you're right, 8, because there's 7 coppers in the state. No, but my general advice to like newer players is just trash cards. Like you'll be amazed how much better your deck gets when you just like focus heavily on trashing in the early game.
Oh, this is a tough call. I guess you're killing a bat to a bat. I wouldn't want to kill the copper if it prevents me from hitting 6.
Yeah, kill bat to bat seems fine.
Yeah, and then by
one
Border Village Envoy probably again.
Yeah. Well, one duchy was worth 8 points, which seemed pretty good actually. I would take an 8-point duchy for sure.
Yeah, the very first that doesn't make any sense. That duchy was incredibly bad. So
yeah, that duchy bad.
Again, I don't even want a duchy in the first place. But let's just assume we wanted a duchy. You could have bought a border village and gained a duchy, which not only gives you a free border village, it would also give you 2 extra points off of a colony. They passed up on both a border village and 2 victory points for reasons that are unclear.
Yeah, so the thing about trashing is, and it's not obvious because like most new players like completely undervalue it, but the benefits from trashing are just the way it accelerates your deck, right? Like you buy a card, and if your deck is clean, like you see that card next turn, and you see that card every single turn. So every card you add is adding value every single turn, or at least like most turns for you. Whereas when your deck is like large and untrashed, then your deck in that card you buy is adding value every other turn, every third turn, every fourth turn, right? So the benefits of trashing are just like exponentially increasing the quality of your deck.
Yeah, or like that Liberty game we had at the beginning where they had like 30 plus cards. Like a card you add, you see it every 6 turns or so. Had they built the engine there, you add a card, you see it every turn. That's like 6 times the value.
Yeah. So just like if you're a newer player, just try it out. Just buy trashers and just trash cards. Just trash very aggressively, and you'll just be amazed by like how much better your deck is.
I like discarding the envoy there. That was a good choice.
Definitely a good choice.
So I think a mistake a player might be inclined to make here is you see a bunch of cards, you're like, what's the most important card to keep out of my opponent's hand? And you might just default to being like, I'll discard the most expensive one, like the gold, because it's more expensive, it's got to be better. And that would have been a mistake. Gold's 8 is not a very good card. But in general, with a card like Envoy or Advisor, what you want to do is stop your opponent from drawing. Because if they play all their draw cards, they draw their whole deck, they're going to get back around to that gold that you discarded anyway. And then the whole point's been defeated. They drew the card that you tried to stop them from having. And so when they're playing their envoys and advisors, the main thing you're trying to do is just fizzle their turn out early. And so I'd say the rule of thumb is usually just discard their draw cards. Because if you cut off their draw by discarding the envoys, they never get back around to the rest of the cards. And that's the best case scenario. And occasionally maybe that involves discarding villages instead of draw. If for some reason you thought their deck was more in need of villages than draw. But basic idea is you want to discard the stuff that stops them from having a full turn.
Yeah. Of course, the only exception is if they had no actions left, then you discard their treasures and stuff.
Yeah, that's true. But if there's no actions left and they played an envoy, well, then you don't need to discard any actions because they can't play it.
Otrucol does seem to be in very good position here, though. So, we can trash 2 more coppers here, buy a province. Seems pretty good.
Yeah, I dig it.
Yeah, Otrucol has definitely trashed a lot more, which is definitely helpful.
Yeah, they have the nicer start as well, but also I think they've gone in a better direction since then.
Well, that turn, that first vampire play was just
that was huge and mostly luck based. But since then, I think they've also prioritized the villages and draw a bit more, which is paying dividends.
Yeah, Otrucol should be at a very high percentage to win here, I think.
I mean, roughly 94.51, give or take.
I think you need more significant figures in there.
That's fair. Give me a second, and I'll give you a more precise number. I gotta crunch the numbers real fast, and
yeah,
my little laptop here doesn't run those calculations very quickly.
Well, run some simulations.
Yeah.
All right, on the game state here, and see how often people win.
That number looks suspicious.
92.141592653588979 sounds about right. Yeah. Yes, that is pi. It is pi. No, it is pi. Yes. Well, it's pi plus 90.
You know what Otrucol's deck could really use right now? Some dungeons.
So dungeon's great. So the thing dungeon does is it allows you to, well, because normally you have 5 cards, right? And if a deck like this, you want to find a village and you want to find an envoy, right? And doing that in 5 cards can sometimes be tricky. But dungeon gives you 2 extra cards to do that in, right? So you get to see 2 more cards. So finding village envoy in 7 cards is a lot easier than doing it in 5 cards. It's a little weird to not play envoy there. What's the last 5 cards here?
I don't know.
Like, if those are a good 5 cards, then not playing envoy is okay. If that's a bad 5 cards, then playing envoy would be what you want to do.
I think there's another border village down there.
There might be border village envoy. If there's border village envoy down there, then like not playing envoy, I think seems pretty correct.
One thing to think about would be if you play the envoy, you could trigger a shuffle, which might be good because they've presumably discarded a bunch of your good cards, and so you'd want to trigger a shuffle that has a bunch of your good cards in it. This is not a bad set of cards to leave on top.
But you know, it's well. I guess I would like to draw the bat though. Drawing the bat would have been good. Not what's a non-STEM major? Isn't everyone a STEM major? I don't understand. I'm pretty sure we're all STEM majors here. Okay.
I majored in economics. That's the E as well, right? In STEM.
Does STEM? As an engineer, yes, that's what the E is.
Yeah.
Econ is STEM, isn't it? Is econ STEM? I'm not even sure.
Yeah, basically.
Does econ count?
Wait, have you all heard of STEAM, which is just STEM, but someone put art in the middle?
You know what? Art's great. All right, no problem there.
Yeah, I am in agreement with Halo Andy. I mean, art's fine and all, but it has no business in STEM. Like, those things are not related in the way that people purport.
No, it's not. Yeah, I have no idea if econ counts for STEM or not. I guess it kind of does, right? Maybe not. I don't know. Whatever. I don't care. It's just it's stupid. But like, econ is a science, right?
There's definitely,
but it's like a soft science.
There's definitely a very mathy side of econ, like all the like econometrics folks.
Okay, so maybe econometrics counts as STEM, but like other econ subdisciplines don't.
Yeah, that's. I think there's probably some that count much more than others.
Is this 8? It is. Look at that.
Ooh,
all right,
4-0?
Octocrawl, no Octrocol.
My calculations have just come in. Looks like it's 100% likelihood that Otrucol was going to win that game.
Oh, nice.
Can someone do me a favor? My search function on Discord is being wonky at the moment. There was some post where, I think it was by Geronimo, but I'm unable to search by usernames at the moment. Can someone find the post that Geronimo made about Dungeon? There was some ridiculous stat that he got from running simulations that was like, in like an average deck in like an in-game-ish state where you've got some victory cards in it, adding like a dungeon to your deck does more for your reliability than adding like 3 villages and 3 smithies or something like that. It was like a ridiculous stat.
I mean, I wouldn't doubt it. Like, Dungeon does in a relatively clean deck, Dungeon just does so much, especially with like village smithy draw, right? Because you need to find a village and a smithy, and doing that in 5 cards is just much harder than doing that in 7 cards.
Yeah, exactly.
Dungeon is just a really, really good card for like reliability.
Yeah, like having 2 dungeons and playing one each on alternating turns is great.
Yeah, normally duration balance is not a thing we care about that much, but like duration balance on dungeons is, as long as you have 1 each turn, like you're doing pretty good.
So this kingdom makes me want to talk briefly about this nice thing we call the ban list. There is, in fact, an option available to you in the client where there's 3 card lists. There's a card list for cards you ban, a card list for cards you dislike, and a card list for cards you like. Now, the like list isn't so important because it's off by default. You can put whatever cards you want there, but like nobody cares about them. You can manually turn it on if you want, but like for ladder matches and stuff, like list is not used. The dislike list and the ban list, however, are very useful because they are used. If you ban a card, it will never, ever, ever show up in any kingdoms. If you put a card on the dislike list, it shows up half as often. I mention this because some cards are just very worthy of being banned. Possession is one of those cards.
Listen, this is not just possession. This is governor possession. This is like one of the worst possessions.
I don't even know my possessions because I've had it banned for two years now.
Dude, governor possession is ridiculous. You just draw, play possession, and then they have a huge hand, and then you can do whatever you want.
That's horrible. That's absolutely horrible.
Okay, actually, hold on. Did you know this is actually a pin that I discovered way back in the day? The Governor Possession Forge pin. You know about this one?
I don't. Oh, is this where like all the cards are set aside so they can't draw anything?
Yeah, so when you trash their entire deck, it gets set aside, then they draw their hand, then the cards get placed back in. So if you use Governor to draw their entire deck, and they have a Forge in their deck, you possess them, you play the Forge, you trash their entire deck, and then they draw a hand of 0 cards.
They would draw the Forge, right? They would draw just the Forge?
They would draw just the Forge, yeah, you're right. So like you can just do that over and over again. The Possession Governor Forge pin is my favorite pin of all time. And I actually did it in a game against a friend of mine one time. It was the funniest thing. I need to find the original forum post I made on that. It was just fantastic.
Yeah, so like Swindler is the most evil card. But as far as the card that's most mechanically broken, it's Possession, no question. The number of ridiculous interactions Possession has is just like off the chart. Like Possession
it's so broken.
Or like Royal Blacksmith or something where like the best strategy is just to trap yourself in mountains of debt so your opponent can't do anything when they possess you. And you just trash down to a deck that's just like 2 possessions in a village, and you put yourself in like 50 debt so they can't do anything with your turns, and all you do in your own turns is possess them and use their turns. And then you get in a stalemate if you both do that, and then no progress is ever made. Definitely like the worst design card ever. Like Donald X talks about this card, and never in a positive light. I'm pretty sure that his design philosophy at this point has just been like, stop trying to design future expansions with Possession in mind, or make cards that aren't broken with Possession, because it's just a lost cause.
Yeah. All right. Here's the original forum post of this pin that I found. Back in what year was that? 2013. That was a long time ago, wasn't it?
Dating yourself here.
I've been playing Dominion a very long time. Okay. I've been playing Dominion almost as long as Dominion has existed.
Back in the day, before the ban list existed for this client, Possession used to just be automatically banned. Like, there was a while where Possession was just the one card that was globally banned. And they rolled out the ban list, and then the assumption was people could keep Possession on their ban list if they wanted it, and you can remove it. But before the ban list was customizable, Possession was banned for everyone. Stash is different, because Stash was just never implemented. Stash isn't, I think, globally banned because it's like a bad card the way Possession is. It's just, I think it's just not feasible on the client because it's got like a funky backside, and there's no way on the client to like see the backside of the cards. So I think that's why Stash was just never developed. That plus Stash is just kind of like a shitty, useless card. So like, there's not any high priority in figuring out how to add it.
All right, we're doing T-map stuff here, huh?
I haven't looked at any other card in this kingdom yet besides Possession. What even is going on?
So T-map is not the thing I want to do here. Right? The thing I want to do here is get a bunch of governors and a possession, or a couple possessions or something.
Oh yeah.
I want to play governor to like draw. They draw their entire deck. I play possession, and then I play with their deck instead.
Yeah, Treasure map looks really bad here.
I mean, the thing with Stash is it's such a boring card. Who cares? Who cares if Stash doesn't exist?
Yeah, I have no desire to see Stash implemented.
The thing about Treasure Map that's extra funny here is Bandit Fort.
I didn't even notice Bandit.
Treasure Map. You lose 8 points for popping Treasure Map. Or no, sorry. Yeah, 8 points, yeah.
What are they doing? So
I don't know.
Treasure Map, I think, is just like a huge noob trap. They love Treasure Fort. Not Treasure Fort. Treasure Map. It's like, oh my god, 4 golds. But then you realize, oh my god, 4 golds.
It's not great. I mean, so Treasure Map is good in decks where you're drawing your entire deck, and you can like play 2 Treasure Maps and then play the golds the same turn you buy them. That's usually the times you want Treasure Map.
Yeah, if you have like a deck that's got overdraw and can gain and play treasure maps, then it can be okay. Now, no, you actually need a decent bit of overdraw. Like if you have a deck that's like just barely managing to draw itself, adding treasure maps to that is actually pretty bad because you'll top deck all 4 golds. They all go to the top of your deck, and then your next turn is just shot because like you get 4 treasures in it. So your deck that
you need a way to get rid of
the golds. Yeah. Like if you could play the treasure maps and then continue on with your turn and still draw the golds, that's about the time I would consider adding treasure maps to a deck. Now in this kingdom, you've got Governor, which is an infinitely easier way to get gold. So I would just never get treasure maps here ever.
How low do you think their scores are going to get here?
That's a good question. Why would you even want gold in this kingdom in the first place? Look at all the other sources of money. You got like Paddock for money. You got Bandit Camp for money. I mean, I guess that you could add golds to Governor remodel into province, but they also don't have governors. There's buying provinces.
They're just not playing with possession here, and like possession is just so strong here.
If you ignore possession, none of this would make sense anymore. Like it would just still be very wrong.
I have to say, I do appreciate that Otrucol is buying lackeys because lackeys is so good.
Lackeys is a really good card. But like if you remove possession, you still have got a huge governor engine that you can build. It doesn't need treasure maps. Governor looks like weirdly bad with Bandit Fort, but it's really not. Because, like, you take a bunch of golds, but then they take a bunch of silvers, and then you get rid of your golds with your other governors. And then, like, the Bandit Fort actually can often be a positive with a governor.
Yeah, so, I mean, at the very least, like, gain gold off governors is point neutral, because you're both losing 2 points.
Yeah.
I really like, the only time I ever liked Aqueduct is with Governor. Governor Aqueduct is fun.
So here we're seeing the other problem with treasure maps, which is, especially if you go for them early, you have no way to guarantee they line up with each other. And so half the time they're just like a junk card that's hurting your deck.
Yeah, you need a way to collide them, for sure.
Oh wait, they don't even have a second treasure map in their deck, so this one's just guaranteed not to collide with anything.
Wait, they only have 1 treasure map?
They have a singular treasure map.
That doesn't make any sense.
It does not make any sense.
It's you just mule it for a copper, I guess. But like, okay,
it can't be a copper. So they're both in the positives now. We're at a nice 1 point.
Okay, well this is double province here, right?
I would think so. And then, do you trigger this? I think not. Right? That's
do not.
Got a bunch of
definitely
in there.
not.
Yeah.
Definitely do not. All right. Well, it's a good lesson to like learn to not trigger shuffles that are bad. So definitely Octocall is playing decently well. Because I mean it's pretty like sometimes you see like, oh, I have a Bandit Camp, I'm just gonna play all my actions, play everything, But if it's gonna trigger a bad shuffle, then don't do it.
And then they were rewarded with this hand anyway.
This is unfortunate. It's unlikely. It's actually exceptionally unlikely to draw this hand. But you know what? That happens. It's Dominion. Bad draws happen. Sometimes you do the right thing and get punished for it. What are you going to do?
Yeah. Just buy lackeys here. Lackeys looks better than spoils to me.
Yeah, for sure. Lackeys is great. Because it's like a lab basically, right? Like a laboratory for 2 coins sometimes.
Yeah, like this late in the game, what are the odds you play that lackeys more than twice before the game ends? Not high. And so you're basically buying lab for 2 coins if you're only going to play it twice, because the villager will cover the actions.
No governors were bought and no possessions were bought.
A little bit sad. Governor's really strong, like top 20 card in the game. Possession is up there, like top 30 or top 40, I think.
Yeah. Governor's extremely strong.
They did only touch lackeys. Lackeys is like a top 10 card. Top 5.
That's also true. This treasure map.
Poor lonely treasure map.
You can't get 1 treasure map. That's not allowed. I mean, you might as well just trash it, right? Just play it. It trashes itself. It's gone forever. Bite the bullet. It's fine.
In their defense, in this particular kingdom, I'm not even convinced 2 treasure maps is better than 1. Because then you might be tempted to play them and then nuke your deck with golds.
Urchin is not... No, that's not a hot take.
Urchin's pretty bad.
Alright, game 5 is in the books. Octracal's looking for a sweep here.
Steamrolling them.
I think at this point Octracal is like super likely to promote.
MiesvanderRolling them.
I've won with negative points.
25 to 12 does not seem like the lowest score ever. Yeah, I've seen games in the negatives for both players. 8-2, you can think lower than that, Otrucol.
Keep going. You can definitely win with a negative score. I've done it before.
I think 1-0 is in fact a pretty darn common finish in a game where you both trashed your estates and then they pile out.
Mm-hmm. That happens. Wall games, yeah. I love Wall. Wall's like one of my favorite events.
What do we got here? Rats. Is rats good here? Maybe, yeah. Yeah.
Rat sewers?
Rats
it's the only trashing, right?
Yeah. What do we
do you open rat sewers?
I think I do. Alright, I'm down to open rats.
Alright.
I like it.
Yeah, I'm down. Alright, rat sewers, let's go.
Yeah, so normally rats isn't thinning on its own. Because you trash a junk, but you gain a rats, which doesn't do anything except gain you more rats. And so if you just like buy rats, then your deck just gets full of rats instead of normal junk. No, the main reason one would normally get rats is trash for benefit cards. Like say Butcher, Replace, Apprentice. That kingdom we had earlier that had tons of trash for benefit. Like that kingdom would love rats. Because trashing rats, which are worth 4 and give you a draw when trashed, is a lot better than trashing your junk directly. So like apprenticing a rat is much better than apprenticing a copper. But it has a few other functions as well. And one that stood up recently with the advent of the Menagerie expansion is rats plus ways can sometimes be good, where you can play the rats as like a way of the something or other. So you like convert the whole deck of rats into like otters and use the rats as otters. This is a kind of an issue though. Yeah, rats way the horse is really strong. Rat sewers is kind of nice because like you get to trash an extra card. So like you trash 2 cards to gain 1 rat. So you're net thinning your deck that way.
They both got 5-2 again.
How are they doing that?
It's like the third game. Didn't they have 5-2? This is the third game, right? They both had 5-2.
Teach me your secrets. So they definitely
incredible.
both had 5-2 in the vampire game. Oh my god, you're right. That is ridiculous.
And they both had it, not just one of them. That actually is very low probability.
5-2 here seems good to me. You can open Den of Sin plus rats.
Well, the 5-2 is a lot better than the 2-5.
Yeah, 2-5 would not be good here.
Well, I mean, so MiesvanderRoll got the 2-5, which is not good.
Oh, you're right. You're right. So yeah, only Otrucol actually has the good draw here.
Cut purse. That's not rats. Rats.
Come on, do it. Yeah, rats actually look like the more I look at this kingdom, rats is like really important because there's no other way to thin your cards.
It's the only trashing, right? Rat sewers is the only way to trash cards.
Exactly. Well, no. Technically, you could buy sewers and then you could use leprechaun to get hexes.
Like Locust and War.
No, that's not even thinning because you have to gain a gold to do that. So you're not net thinning. So you first empty the curse pile and then you locust your coppers into curses, but the curses are out, and then you trash the second card with rats. That would technically thin.
Or, and just hear me out, you empty the gold pile.
Oh, that works too. You're right.
Mies took the curse, took the Defiled Shrine again.
All right, it's time for a refresher on our earlier lesson. Curse is not a good card. This is like buying an estate.
Yeah, it's like buying a state. It's just not good. I mean,
even their opponent's commenting on it.
Yeah, I just like Defiled Shrine. Very often, Defiled Shrine gets to like 10 points or 12 points before it's actually good to take.
Yeah. So where's this deck going, or where ought this deck be going long term? I don't think you're playing with Double Tactician because you want to play with Dins.
You're playing with like leprechauns, right?
I think you
like you just
add a leprechaun to get some golds, then play with Catacombs, Mountain Village, Den of Sin, and like a storeroom for plus buy so you can double province.
Yeah, basically you're playing with Den, Catacombs, Mountain Village for draw, rat sewers for trashing, a leprechaun for some gains and some golds, and then probably double provincing, or something.
We have a rat spot. All right, you go, Otrucol.
Nice. Now you need the sewers though.
Buying silver on turn 4 was weird. Yeah, if you're buying sewers seems really important to me.
Rats without sewers is not very exciting. Rats with sewers is very exciting though.
Sewers, please.
Sewer rats, let's go.
Yeah, it's even thematic. The rats need their sewers to live in.
Sewing rats? Yes. I think they're knitting actually.
They're crocheting.
Oh, you're right. I always confuse those two.
Don't ask me the difference.
Crocheting uses hooks, and then knitting uses the pins, I think.
One more little fun fact about rats that could theoretically come up is the rats out. This is a nice little tactic that rats can sometimes allow, which is if you have at least 2 rats in your deck and you can draw your deck, no matter how many rats are left in the pile, you can empty the entire rats pile. So imagine you had 2 rats and got to the end of your deck. You play rats, gain a rats. Now as a rat's in your discard, you play the other rats, you draw the rats you just gained, and put another rat in the discard, and you just repeat that on loop until all the rats are empty. The downside of this is you trash every card in your hand in the process. So if you had any green cards or treasures, they all die. But this comes up, for example, if you have like a points lead, like if you had VP from Defiled Shrine, and there were 2 piles empty, and you're willing to destroy your entire deck to end the game immediately, for example, might be why you would do that. And so it can lead to nice pile-outs, where you just kill your entire deck to empty the rats, and then win the game on the spot.
Rat sets are fun.
That came up recently in the last A-League match, right? Between Smith and Akuchi, where Akuchi never got to do it, but he was threatening to do it. Like he had 2 rats and was like dancing around the pile out, and it made N.A. Smith make some weird and awkward plays to have to avoid the rats pile out, like buying provinces early.
Mm-hmm. All right, so now Curse is basically a province, which is getting more tempting in these decks.
It would be nice with plus buy as well. I think that there's two big drawbacks to Defiled Shrine. One is you're putting Curse in your deck, and Curse is not a good card. The other is you're spending your buy on it. So like imagine you had like 4 in hand and you bought Defiled Shrine. Not only are you getting a Curse, you're like failing to get a Mountain Village or Rats or Cavalry or whatever. And so you're passing up on both of those. And so something that at least lowers the opportunity cost of Defiled Shrine a bit is if you have surplus plus buy, where like you had 5 and 2 buys, you could buy your Catacombs and then buy Curse for 0. You're still getting the Curse, which is one downside, but you're not getting the other downside of Defiled Shrine of missing out on a buy.
The man's comment. You can't trash it so much as turn it into the rats. Although now we have sewers, now we can trash it.
All right,
nice.
Here we go. Sewers
is
time.
Great sewers. Let's trash.
Oh, with 2 rats in hand, this is nice. You can trash your other rats and then draw.
You might also just not do that though.
Why would I not?
Also just trash more copper.
But then you would need 2 more cards for your other rats to trash?
Yeah, lots of stuff to trash. Okay, actually, Mountain Village rats here, it's fine.
Yeah, I would take rats here, trash copper, and if you don't draw a second junk card, trash silver.
Seems fine. Why are we not playing Mountain Village?
Good question. Don't know.
Like, not. Are we stopping?
Gold, no, not
Weird.
gold.
Gold bad. Don't buy gold.
Yeah.
So, yeah, just don't buy gold ever is not always correct, but like it's correct often enough.
Yeah, if you follow the rule, never buy gold, you're going to be closer to optimal play than whatever you're doing right now. I think that's true for most players.
It's depressing. Gold's a great payload. It's just buying gold is sad because it's so expensive.
Yeah.
But like Leprechaun gaining golds is great payload.
Yeah, there's a lot of cards that function as dedicated gold gainers, like Leprechaun or Soothsayer or Bandit or whatever. Those are often fine at adding payload. Like buying one card that gains you a bunch of golds is pretty acceptable. Buying gold, on the other hand, is just usually bad. Gold is like a meh card, but it has this problem of costing 6. And in almost any kingdom, there's going to be some card costing 5 or 6, often many cards costing 5 or 6 that are just better than it. And so there's rarely an opportunity where buying gold is correct because it means passing up on stronger cards. And I think, last I checked, I buy gold in like 13% of all games. So like 6/7 of all games, I never buy a single one. By contrast, I gain gold in like half of games because there's lots of decent gold gainers that you get.
Gaining gold good, buying gold bad.
Yeah.
That's the rule.
And also, even when you do buy gold, it's often a thing you buy like 1 or 2 of about the time you're adding payload. A thing I see a lot in these lower level games is they buy gold the first time they hit 6 or every time they hit 6 even. It's like, oh, I've hit 6, I gotta buy the 6 cost card. And usually the correct buy is going to be some $5 action that's just stronger than gold is. And you don't need to feel compelled to buy gold just because you have 6. Especially early. Like if you don't have deck control yet, it's not time to add payload. And these decks don't seem to have deck control yet.
Otrucol is close though.
Yeah, they're heading in the right direction. I like the sewer rats idea. So I don't want to be playing with 2 Tacticians for Otrucol, which means you're not going to have this plus buy from Tactician for long. So I would be thinking about like Storeroom now and a Storeroom and a Den of Sin. No, Otrucol, no, bad. Undo. Click undo. It's not too late. No, that was not a good set of buys. We were getting ever so close to getting more control of our deck, and we just added 2 more stop cards.
Yeah. I mean, Sewer Rats is kind of like Watchtower Rats, except you always have Watchtower. So it's just better. Also, sewer has some trash things that are other than the rats you gain, right? So you can trash like more coppers.
This is true. See, they added a bunch of golds and cut purses, and it's not going to matter at all because they've got one buy this turn. So like no amount of money is going to help you.
Right. You could have just played the rats, right? And then they trash cut purse or something.
Stop buying golds. I'm sorry. What were you saying?
I mean, you might just put the rats there anyway. There's probably some draws where it makes sense too.
Oh, I definitely want to play the rats. Trash cut purse, trash rats. Otrucol was like getting so close to like getting a good deck. They were. It's not a fear, Halo Andy. It's more of like a disgust. It's like a deep and unbridled hatred.
Like you just wish it dead. That's fine.
Yeah, exactly. You could trash it with rats. That would not be a bad play. But yeah, they were getting so close to having deck control, and they could have started adding payload after that, and then they decided, nope, we just want a bunch of stop cards. But like an example of a good deck here would have like probably at least one Den of Sin per turn, maybe multiples. Have some catacombs and mountain villages for extra draw. Draw your deck every turn, and I would want plus buy off of storeroom. The only other plus buy is tactician. Asterisk, and tactician seems not very good here because it would discard your Dens of Sin before you can play them, as well as any treasures. So storeroom seems like the best source of plus buy, and then you probably build up to about double province. The asterisk being there's technically a third source of plus buy, which is if you gain a cavalry by any means other than buying it, that's netting you one buy. You can buy cavalry and get plus one buy, but that's just kind of buy neutral. You're spending a buy, getting a buy back. But if you gain a cavalry by some means other than buying it, you get a buy but didn't spend a buy, so you could technically get two buys. So for example, trashing a catacombs with rats and gaining a cavalry off of catacombs effect would give you an extra buy, and you could buy 2 provinces. Or you could turn a wish into wish into cavalry, and that would give you extra buy. Or you could, what if you trashed a catacombs with locusts? Then you could get 2 cavalries and have 3 buys. One from the locust effect and one from the catacombs on trash effect.
Incredible.
Stop, please stop that. Stop. Otrucol, you're making me so sad.
Why are we building more? I just like province is fine.
Given the contents of their deck, which are now getting increasingly moneyish, just provincing seems reasonable. Ideally, we would have time traveled back a few turns and not added a bunch of treasure in the first place, and then we wouldn't need to satisfy ourselves with just a single province.
The decks now are just like full of golds, so like just province. That's all they're gonna do anyway.
Just resign yourself. Like,
you're not. I mean, you're never gonna do more than province, right? So
yeah, not with
that's
these
just where
decks.
we are right now.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the rats only work here if you get sewers as well, right? You play rats and sewers, that lets you actually fin stuff. They got some rats first and started loading up on rats, and then they got sewers. So there's just like a bunch of extra rats floating around.
Yeah,
that would be here if you just got sewers earlier.
An important little note about the rat sewers thing is like, you do usually want to trash a rat with your sewers. Because if you spend too many turns double trashing other stuff with rats, you end up with a bunch of rats left in your deck, and the rats can't really clear out the other rats very effectively. You need to be killing those with sewers, which requires you to trash some other thing. But like they're still thinner for it. It's like even if they have a few rats in their deck, having a few rats is definitely better than having 10 starting cards. So like it's not like the rat sewers didn't pay off. That was the good part. The bad part was then once they started to get thin, not adding draw and plus buy and maintaining deck control. It was the mistake when they started buying golds and cut purses. That's when the deck fell apart.
Oh, it could still be trashing with rats, right? You can still be trashing like silvers, and it's fine. Because you trash a silver, you also trash the rats, right? So trashing silver and rats is better than having both of those cards in your deck.
Well, bear in mind, that's not actually thinning the rats, because you're gaining a rats and trashing a rats. So that play is only thinning a silver.
I mean, yeah, I guess. But there's only 6 rats left. They're almost gone.
Yeah, if the rats were empty, that would be genuine thinning.
Alright.
Now, you can do it situationally, like they just did it there. They haven't made the deck any thinner, but like maybe you just need to draw like at that particular moment, and you're willing to trash to draw 2.
Yeah, it's fine. Probably buy a den here. Dens are good.
Yeah, I'm down with the den. These tacticians do feel a bit out of place. Each of them has one.
Yeah, Tactician doesn't play well with like a bunch of golds.
And nor does it play well Den of Sin.
No.
The main thing you usually do with Tactician is, if you want to build a Tactician, you usually want to build a double Tactician deck, in which you have 2 Tacticians, which you play on alternating turns. So you discard a Tactician every turn, so that every turn has 10 starting cards in it and 2 actions and 2 buys, and that's wonderful. The big downside, of course, is if you are playing a Tactician at the end of your action phase every turn, you're discarding all your treasures before you get to play them, and all your night cards before you get to play them. And so the double Tactician deck does not work well at all with treasures or night cards. And so that deck's viable when you have action-based payload. So like theoretically, I think someone suggested in comments at some point, I think it's suboptimal here, but you could try to build a deck that was like 2 Tacticians, some draw with Catacombs and Mountain Villages, and then just discard the rest of your deck with Storeroom for like 8 money, for example, and then play Tactician at the end of that, and then buy a province. That would work. And you could do that every single turn. So you wouldn't have to like sacrifice one turn to have a big turn next turn. You just play Tactician every turn and get the benefits every turn. Or you could build a deck that had a bunch of cut purses, like 2 Tacticians, Mountain Villages, cut purses. Like that would theoretically be a functioning deck, where you play Tactician every turn, but you play the cut purses first for money, so you're not discarding anything of value when you do play the Tacticians. Something like that would be examples of a double Tactician deck. Outside of that, I'd say Tactician seems pretty limited in its uses. Maybe you get it early if you want to spike a big number for like pathfinding or inheritance. Were you just about to say something?
Probably, but I don't know. I forgot.
All right. I checked my numbers, and it looks like otrucol at least 86.2% likely to win this game at this point.
Let me verify those real quick. Yes, you're correct.
Thank you. Yeah, their decks are pretty similar in composition, but otrucol's got a big points lead that MiesvanderRoll needs to overcome. And like normally, abstracting from that, just a points lead in and of itself doesn't mean a whole lot. In fact, I would say oftentimes a points lead can be pointing towards the loser, not the winner, because it means you might have greened too early, and your opponent's going to overcome that. But that's usually true if one person is playing more money-ish and one person's building an engine, and the money player has the points lead because they greened earlier, and the engine player is taking their time and is going to overcome them later. But if you have a points lead and your decks are otherwise pretty similar, that's just kind of a genuine lead because your opponent doesn't have like a better deck to show for it.
This is Double Province, right?
Yes.
Seems solid.
Yeah, just double there, and that looks like a hard points deficit to come back from. So I think we might have a 6-0 on our hands.
Looking like it.
I got 6-0'd once.
It was painful. Hurt. I was 6-0'd once also. It was this season.
To N.A. Smith. Mine was versus Mixinock. I think the first season I was in
respectful.
Mix 6-0'd me.
Yeah, he'll do that. All right. I'm looking at like 96.4 right now. %.
96.4. I buy it. But mix in B now. So who got the last laugh?
More like McBeanock.
Got him. Otru could buy 7 curses and then trash the province of the rats. That's one line that they could lose.
Slash design in chat would also work.
That's true. Yeah, Johnson's line is actually, I think, a lot more efficient. My line would take a few turns to lose.
Yeah, I'm all about efficiency. All right, I think we're at 100% there.
It's not too late. They can still resign here before they end their buy phase.
That's true. They can still resign.
Not too late.
No, they can't.
Okay, now we're done.
Oh, now it's over.
All right, congrats to otrucol for a nice 6-0,
yes.
Which I think puts them in a huge
Very
lead
nice.
and likely to promote to I.
It seems like almost certain at this point to promote. Yeah.
Yeah. That was a long match, yeah.
Was it like 2.5 hours?
2 hours. Oh yeah, they started a little bit late, so 2.5 hours.
It wasn't that long. I mean, it was a little bit long, but
I think it's long by J League standards. I wouldn't be too surprised to have a 2.5 hour match, but a lot of these J League plays last like an hour. In any case, good match. Thanks for commentating. I'll see y'all around.
Bye.